Donald Trump returns to Florida. Joe Biden is inaugurated, and the purge rages on online. This is The Arc with Riccardo Bosi. Riccardo, what a week.
Big week, good week.
It's been absolutely insane. As we saw happening in the US, Joe Biden got inaugurated with Kamala Harris.
We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
Listen, I don't know who this is, but you better cut it out.
Sorry guys, I couldn't help it. So Joe Biden is the president of the United States right now. He was voted in yesterday morning. I woke up at 4 a.m. so that I could cover it for you guys, so you didn't have to wake up at the crack of dawn. So he is getting on with the job. Basically, he's not wasting any time. He's signed 17 executive orders, really trying to make up lost time. It's been entertaining watching all the Q people sort of morph their conspiracies. One person said, "What the hell is this? The bottom book is the Bible, but what does Kamala Harris have her hand on there?" And if you look at it from another angle, it's actually the Holy Bible. But a lot of people, you know, they're getting very frustrated. There's other footage where the National Guard, was it 25,000 National Guard, more than they've got deployed overseas or something like that. All of them were in Washington, D.C. There's footage of them not showing their back to Joe Biden as he was driving past his motorcade. But then we got the media coverage. CNN praises Biden for causing the sun to rise in the east this morning. Now, of course, that's from the Babylon Bee. That's not a real article, guys. But it's been entertaining watching the reactions to it. Here's another one. This is from a state-affiliated media organization in China. "Good riddance, Donald Trump. Goodbye." And someone said to that, "When China is applauding your country has seriously effed up." What do you think about? What was your reaction?
That's
Riccardo?
exactly my reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, I got up and I watched it live, and you need a strong stomach to watch that stuff. But we watched it live, and I was surprisingly calm. I didn't get the least bit upset. I wasn't the least bit fussed, because I know certain things, and I speculate about others, but I was quite calm watching the performance. But one of the things, let's go chronologically, the inauguration proper, the fact that Lady Gaga sang the national anthem, and for those that understand this, will understand this, this is a message that certain people are back in control. It wasn't an accident that Lady Gaga was selected. The speech, Biden's acceptance speech, was magnificent. Not him, he didn't write it, he couldn't string two words together.
Of course not. He delivered it incredibly well. So I was impressed.
Yeah, his meds must have been high, but without any sarcasm, 10 out of 10 to the speechwriter. Is a beautiful speech. Completely irrelevant, completely wrong from a guy that's been in politics for how long? And he was vice president for 8 years. Yeah. And it's the speech of the hero who has saved the country, not the guy that's been there degrading it for 4 decades plus. Yeah. But lovely speech, beautifully delivered. Yeah. But as we've been saying before for a long time, we're being shown a movie and we're supposed to believe the movie. Well, a lot of us don't believe the movie.
Fun fact, Joe Biden, as you said, he's served for over 4 decades, and the service continues, as we can see. When he started serving in the Senate, in the Congress, he basically, he was one of the youngest members, and there were members alive there serving that were born in the late 1800s. That's how long this guy's been around. I mean, I think he's been around for like 33% of the history of the United States. That's how long he's been serving.
And his bank balance is fat.
Oh, yeah.
But the country is broken. That should tell you everything.
And we've covered that. We've talked about not just his balance, more importantly, his family's balance, whether that be his son, Hunter Biden, inking a $1.5 billion private equity deal in China after flying with his father on Air Force 2, which is another violation. All of this happened. Joe Biden was also put on the housing board or something to rebuild Iraq or something like that. And his brother at the time was also awarded a housing contract in Iraq.
It's the contracts. If you want to know, follow the contract. And look, if you want a bit of an insight, and I wasn't going to mention this, but if you can find an old series called Boss, with Kelsey Grammer. And Kelsey Grammer plays the corrupt mayor of Chicago, but that's a tautology. I repeat myself. Have a look at that show. It's extraordinary. It came out many years ago now. But they actually, the series, it was cut short, and I think it was because it was cutting too close to the bone. But if you understand the real purpose of politics, you've got to watch that show. It's a little fictional insight into the grubby nature of real politics. So ramp that up a large level and go to the Biden level. And goodness me, you're like, it's the contracts, it's the flow of money. That's it.
Yeah, the Clinton organization, this is the analogy I use. The Clinton organization, the equivalent for Joe Biden is his family. Because what he does is he gets these deals for his son, for example, $80,000 a month to work for a private gas company in Ukraine. And then what he does is that child will pay all the bills. So paying for his father's bill. So it's like, okay, well, who's really getting the money here? And that's where a lot of people this week, I've actually been exchanging online with Drew Pavlo. We've been doing sort of a tit for tat posts on Joe Biden's corruption, basically, and his family's corruption with China. He doesn't believe that Joe Biden is going to be worse on China. He thinks he's going to be better. And I'm like, mate, where have you been? Like, this is embarrassing. Like, I honestly feel sorry for Drew, because it's like, Drew, I don't want you to be, I respect what you're doing. You are a progressive, and you're about my age. You've been battling with the Chinese Communist Party in your university. They got rid of you at one point, and now you're back, which is great. But you need to understand the truth on this. Joe Biden is not better on China. He will not start a trade war with China like Trump did.
He's not going to bite the hand that feeds him.
Absolutely.
And again, the reason this is interesting, because what happens in the US affects us. But if you understand the game, then you can see what's happening here in Oz. The same, crooked politicians here face the same problem. How do they get the money that they are due for delivering the policies that the rich backers want? And we've mentioned one before, like, for example, you are allowed to purchase a house on very low price and a good deal, and then you can sell it sometime later, let's say, for a massive profit, because somebody else then buys it, the same person buys it back from you, and they transfer the money. That's, let's say, allegedly one, potentially one. Another way is, and this was a popular method of a politician some decades ago, a company might want a particular policy. So what would happen was, this politician would make a public statement. A media organisation might say something slanderous about the politician, and then the politician would then take the media organisation to court. It'd be in the court for some time, and then they'd settle privately. And the media organisation would acknowledge, yes, well, I'm sorry, we probably went too far, and there's a private settlement, so we can stop the legal action. So it was a kabuki theatre. It was a performance piece. It was a pantomime. And so people think that things are being done, but that's the way you can transfer large sums of money from one individual to a politician. And it's just one example. There are any number of ways to get politicians rich for delivering the policies that the wealthy backers, and in this case China, wants.
Interesting.
So watch what's happening, but look at the game that's being played and who's playing it. And you'll start to see the method. Once you see the method, you can't unsee it anymore.
Yeah, and it's awesome when that happens. And that's what we need to see more of. I mean, last week we talked about Project Veritas and what they were doing with exposing a lot of fraud that was going on in America. That is amazing. It is amazing citizen journalism, and we want to see more of it. I mean, that's what we want to see in Australia.
Well, do you remember you asked me what's the future of media? And I said, you are. This. This guy here. This guy's the future of media. And you get to choose, because it is genuinely a market-driven event. Joel survives because he delivers value. You like it, and you're happy to pay a couple of bucks a week to keep it going. I mean, how cool is that?
That's awesome.
And this is the future. And what I love about Joel is he's happy to see. Here's one metric: the truth. If it's the truth, it's in. If it's not, it's out. That's as simple as that. And you guys pick up on it. And so he will deal with the progressives, with the left, the right, the middle, the in between, the up, the down, the black. He doesn't care. He just pursues the truth. And when the Australian people start to see it and then appreciate what you're doing, you and guys like you and girls like you will be fabulously powerful and important. One small problem is that the platforms, they have to be open, but that's a separate question for later.
It's a big club and you ain't in it. That's what George Carlin used to infamously said.
That's right.
But this is the thing. I'm actually not a citizen journalist, guys. That's more Monica Schmidt-esque. I'm actually just a commentator. I don't do the hard yards. I do some hard yards, but it's not like
He's
on
lying.
the ground.
He works his tail off.
No.
please.
I do work my ass off, but it's in a different way. What I do is because what do you guys see every week? You see headlines, news headlines, BBC, ABC, but you see all of this crap, but you don't know how to make sense of it because they're contradicting each other from a month ago. You know, once upon a time, protests were bad. Now they're also bad. But with the Black Lives Matter protests, for example, they were saying that violent protests are the language of the unheard. Now, what did they say when Trump's people supposedly stormed the Capitol? They say, "Oh no, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. It's never been burned down since the doors haven't been breached since the UK came back and tried to take over us." The point is that I'm actually just dissecting the news. I'm trying to make sense of it for you guys. I don't do the hard yards on the ground, but I do a lot of hard work in trying to get you the truth. And that's why when people insult where I'm coming from, you say I'm a plant, that's where it's like...
Are they still saying that?
They'll never stop.
Oh, okay.
And I love those people. I'm fighting for you people too, and I never will stop. But you need to stop trying to be the one that's the first one to say, Riccardo's a plan. I was the first to do it. I knew it from the start.
For whom are we allegedly working? I'm fascinated because they're not paying very well, let me tell you.
They don't. They take it. I mean, the audience takes care of me, but there are some people out there, they are just happy throwing stones. Get off your butt and do something. Don't trust the plan, be the plan. Stop looking for the next plan and the next best thing. Actually get something done. But let's look at how Antifa actually appreciated Inauguration Day. They ended up thanking Joe Biden by burning down the Democratic Party headquarters in Oregon. Like, when will everyone understand this? They will not stop. They said, we don't want Biden, we want revenge.
This was so predictable. I mean, you called it. I think you actually called it.
I definitely called it. I said, guys, this is a boxing match where there's no referee. If you fall to the ground, they will keep beating you. There's no one to call time. They'll keep beating you until you're dead and everything you love is destroyed. They said, we don't want Biden. We want revenge for police murders, imperialist wars, and fascist massacres. This is the people you're dealing with. And once you recognize that, then it's like, okay, it's a different game we're playing. That's completely different. So if you thought this was going to be over just because, just elect Joe Biden, we don't want to see any more riots and Black Lives Matter, this is the result, guys.
I'll be fascinated to see how the Biden administration deals with this.
Well, you know what's funny, Riccardo? they're cracking down on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shock horror. Trump didn't.
I know. Well, this is the thing. Trump, he touted possibly bringing in the Insurrection Act, but he didn't want to do it because all of these states, they were actually in a situation where they would have come down on him and said, no, Trump's a fascist, this and that. So they were trying to bait him, so they just sort of let it go.
I think this is a replay of a similar strategy employed by the Nazis back in the 30s. There was the SA, which was Hitler's private army. They were the brown shirts.
Brown shirts, stormtroopers.
And they provided the muscle on the street to bring Hitler to power. But then the SA became a bit of an embarrassment because they were too strong. Ernst Röhm, who was running it, was getting a little bit too powerful. But Hitler, being Hitler, was a little worried because Röhm was a very loyal guy, but Hitler couldn't handle the fact that Röhm was was in his own right extremely powerful. And so one night when Röhm was out with his boyfriends having a wild weekend of sex, Hitler sent the guys around to take out the leadership of the SA and destroy the SA. The other motivation was not just simply because Rome was powerful, but because the military didn't want... The SA was actually larger than the military at that stage, the German military.
It was like 2 million people?
It was huge.
It was
I don't know the
massive,
exact
right?
number, but it was bigger than the reduced military.
Wow.
And the army was worried, and the army basically said, look, we'll back you, but you've got to take care of these guys. And so the SA was destroyed, the leadership was killed, and the SS was created. And so there was that transition. And so... history repeating itself, and that's the beauty about history. You read it, you watch it, you see what's coming, you look like a genius. No one believes you, of course. It's the curse of Cassandra. Cassandra was cursed with the ability to see the future, but nobody would believe her.
Yeah. What do you do? And this is the thing, we keep saying liberals, stop empowering the radicals. They're not going to eat you last. They're
eating each other now.
Right now. What was it? Antifa? You know, this is funny. Antifa at Berkeley University, they had this spray painted on the wall. I remember seeing it in 2017. They said, liberals get the bullet first. Well, this is what happens when Biden gets in control. The establishment, as I tried to say 1,000 times, let Trump finish his damn job. But no, you didn't let the bull run through the china shop. You killed the bull before he could do it. You helped usher him out. Then you got thrown out. Now they are boarding up the windows and the doors, and they don't want anyone to get into the ivory tower again. That's where we are. So well done. I don't think it's irreversible. I think we can reverse this.
Oh, nothing's irreversible. Nothing.
Absolutely.
Everyone should relax. We're going to talk more about Trump and the future shortly, but relax. Nothing's irreversible.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, but the reason why we make these points, guys, is because you look at the accuracy rate, and then you start to work out who you should actually be listening to. And once you work that out, you save a lot of heartache. See, how many times has the media lied to you guys, yet you still listen to them? I listen to them so I can tell you their lies. But you guys, I make it easy for you. I make it very easy for you. In honor of this historic inauguration, here's a beautiful mosaic of Kamala Harris made out of every prisoner eligible for early release that she tried to keep in overcrowded jails so California could exploit them for cheap labor as firefighters.
Now, that's just not fair, telling the truth like that. Honestly, come on.
She incarcerated, and we've talked about all these things, guys, 3,000 people for low-level drug offenses with marijuana. And because marijuana over there is classified as a very high-level drug, like it's up there with like meth and stuff, which is insane. So there are a number of people getting incarcerated over there, and you know, I don't agree with marijuana, but the way that she was prosecuting it, and now she's saying she's for legalization. Now she's saying she's not hard on crime. She's actually always been hard on crime. In fact, the progressives call her Cop Karma.
Well, it's almost like she's just following orders that have no consistent theme or internal consistency.
Or she's an opportunist. You know, it's hard to say. But I wanted to quickly run through, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on these executive orders, Riccardo, and what the repercussions are for Australia. On day one, as I said, Joe Biden as president, he was trying to rush through 17 executive orders that he signed. I'm surprised he stayed awake for all of them. I'll be honest with you. It was a very long day. Like, honestly, Joe, I said it in Arabic, haram, poor thing. I feel sorry for you. The length of the day, I'm just surprised you made it through it. I honestly mean that.
And he signed them on a desk the same size as his reputation and ability. Have you seen the little desk? He's on the little desk.
Yeah, they always do it like that. So the first executive order that was sort of signed, I think this is chronological, but it doesn't matter. They're all in the same time. It was an executive order requiring that people wear masks and keep their distance from each other on federal property. Now, he broke that half a dozen times within the few hours preceding that. But there is no, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no definitive evidence that masks work or don't work. We actually just don't know. There's no consensus. It doesn't matter what people say.
And there's certainly no scientific evidence that it works.
Exactly. Like, I mean, there's actually studies showing for and against, but it's just not conclusive. And that's a problem if you're going to mandate something like it's the truth, and you're going to censor videos like ours, which we'll talk about later. Second executive order, the launch of 100 days masking challenge to encourage Americans to wear masks. Now, notice that's 100 days masking challenge. The reason he said that is because it's unconstitutional to mandate it across all the states. The Supreme Court would strike it down. So it's a 100-day masking day challenge. So it's sort of like
why? So the question is, why would you have an order that says you must wear a mask, but we're also going to have a please wear a mask program?
Yeah.
Now, there are implications for Australia here, but my take on this is quite simple. It's a measure of compliance, because that's one thing they need to know. Because when they know, like in Australia, when the nation is compliant, they can take the next bold step. If the nation is not compliant, they can't take the next bold step because the population is not ready for it. The implications for Australia are this. So that's that measure. How compliant are they? Yep. The same question here, because I received a phone call from a supporter. And let me just quickly dive into these two, because they're both important. I'll come with the second one shortly. Anyway, this particular supporter, Anthony, rang me up and said, it works. And I said, what? He said, the mask. I went into this shop and I said, they challenged me and they said it's compulsory to wear a mask. And the signs actually say it on, I think it was Coles.
Yeah.
It's compulsory to wear a mask, and it's not. It's not compulsory. It's not a law, and we've spoken that it is actually not based in law. It's an illegitimate direction.
Yeah.
But he said he followed the instructions, which were, I have a medical exemption, and they said, "What exemption?" "I don't have to tell you. That's an invasion of my medical privacy." They said, "Okay." Now, I wouldn't ask anybody to do what I wouldn't do, because I did the same thing. And a big shout out to the people at Bunnings. Thank you so much. You were brilliant. We went in to get some paint and some light globes and a few things. I love my Bunnings time. It was one of the best shops on the planet. We were confronted halfway through our shop by one of the managers and said, "Excuse me, you have to wear a mask. Would you like one?" It was very courteous. "Would you like a mask?" I said, "No, we have medical exemption." And he said, "What exemption?" I said, "I can't tell you. That's an invasion of medical privacy." And he said, "No problem. Can I give you a sticker saying that you are exempt from wearing the mask?" And I proudly wore my exemption sticker as I went through Bunnings.
Legendary.
So there you go, folks. So it's a measure of compliance. Now, implications for Australia. I received another call this morning from another person almost in tears. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? We had a long chat about that for about 40 minutes. And the reason this individual was particularly worried is because she was travelling overseas some 10 years ago and went to the doctor just to get some vitamins, some stuff to make sure she handles the trip well. And the medical professional at the time said, "You should get now which one was it? Swine flu. You should get the swine flu virus as a prophylactic, just in case you're exposed." The vaccine, not the virus.
Yeah, sure.
The vaccine.
Don't get the virus
swine flu
intentionally.
vaccine. Well, you get one and the same.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Fact check.
Fact check that. You should get the swine flu vaccine as a prophylactic measure to prevent anything if you're exposed. And so she did. Well, the tale of woe over 10 years: autoimmune disease, narcolepsy, chronic fatigue, inability, and I can't remember the term, executive. There's a problem learning new things, particularly sequential issues. She has difficulty for 10 years of misery. Now, she went to the doctors to check out, is it any one of a number of other possible causes, and they came back and said, no, it's the vaccine. Yeah. So she's in tears. She said, what do we do? And I said, first thing is stop wearing masks. And she said, how does that help? Because if Australians wake up and stop wearing the mask, that's a message to the cabal and the treasonous politicians that we're not buying their nonsense. So they'll have to slow down their push for the vaccine. But everyone's wearing the mask. Have you seen it? The take-up is nearly 100%. And this gives them confidence that they can now push the vaccine because people believe it. So if we start taking off our masks, claiming a legitimate medical exemption, and as I said, one of the exemptions is anxiety, and anxiety is when you are dealing, this is the definition, you're dealing with a problem over which you have no control. So who does that cover? Work it out. Once we start taking off the masks, this has been one of those tangible steps to slow the vaccine issue out. And after that, we can start turning up in our millions and telling the politicians we're not buying this stuff anymore. So this is why you look at what they're doing and reverse it. Does that make sense? Absolutely, if you want to know what policies we should proceed with and in what sequence in terms of priority, have a look at what the other side is doing and reverse it. And if one of his first ones, one of the first 17, is compelling people to wear masks, our policy is get the masks off. Yeah. Correct.
Two of them actually.
Two of them.
So the next one is actually the reversal of Trump's decision to remove the US from the World Health Organization.
Well, this same woman, let me just continue.
Go for it.
When she went to the doctor and said, look, I'm traveling overseas, the doctor said, well, the World Health Organization recommends swine flu. No. So there you go. Now, just as a reminder for those who are late to the game, and no criticism, Dr. Tedros, head of the World Health Organization, was the number 3 man in a communist terrorist government running Ethiopia. He was responsible for covering up a cholera outbreak in Egypt. And this is the man that we trust. And even our foreign minister went to the trouble of defending the organisation by saying, oh, well, there might be some problems in the leadership, but by and large, they're telling us good things.
Oh, boy.
Moving right along.
Do not trust the WHO. You can trust them when they say things you like. For example, when they first came out and said lockdowns are good, now they're saying they're bad, it should be a last resort. I trust them. I trust them on that. Okay.
Well, if they're for the WHO, we're against it. Moving right along.
An executive order that creates the position of COVID-19 response coordinator and restores the Directorate for Global Health Security and Biodefense, a team in charge of pandemic response with the National Security Council. That's not much. Mike Pence was in charge of a similar thing before. It's just basically the COVID-19 task force. Nothing to see there. Calls to Congress to extend COVID-19 aid and requests to various departments to extend eviction and foreclosure moratoriums and pause payments for federal loans. So that's basically expansion of the debt, national debt. They want, I think it's $1,400 to go out to all Americans again, payments. And yeah, it's basically making sure people don't get kicked out. So, and this is the funny thing. They created the problem with the lockdowns, and then they're selling you the solution, and they're keeping the profits. This is what we're seeing, guys, and it's in real time. But I think that one's self-explanatory. This is one I want to get your word on. An instrument that will allow the US to rejoin the Paris Agreement on climate change within 30 days. Now, why would they do that, Riccardo, when China and India don't have to do anything till 2030 and they're the biggest emitters?
Again, I think we've covered it before, but it's a means by which they get money out of the average American and into other people's pockets. So they make money, but they also strip the average American citizen of their financial power, which they must do. And once again, if Biden's for it, any sensible person's got to be against it. And this tells you again the priorities. This is very bad news for the US.
Another one is an executive order reversing actions Trump took that Biden's agencies judged to have been harmful to the environment, public health, or the national interest, and asking agencies to revise these standards to tackle climate change. I think Trump did a ton of, I think in his first 500 days, he ended up, for every one piece of legislation he put down, he repealed 23 of them. So he did a lot of deregulation, especially with climate stuff. So he got things through, which was good. I don't think this is great, but I won't elaborate on it too much. But deregulation has been largely really good for America. An executive order with the aim of embedding equity across federal policymaking and rooting out systemic racism and other barriers to opportunity from federal programs and institutions. This order will also disband the Trump administration's 1776 Commission, which is promoting American ideals in America's schools. What do you reckon about that one, Riccardo?
Internationalism. Internationalism. They're trying to solve problems that don't exist. There is no institutionalized racism. There might be personal racism, and that's a problem. Excuse me. That must be dealt with progressively in terms of what you call de-radicalization or just information. Yeah. But there are enough black people out there, big names and small names, saying this is nonsense. There is no institutionalized racism. There are individuals, but there is none.
That's right. Larry Elder, guys, check his conversation out with Dave Rubin. He smashes him when Dave was a progressive. But,
and so once again, if there's no problem and they're bringing a solution to it, there's another agenda, and the agenda is to undermine American values, what made America great. And once again, you've got to understand, why is everyone trying to get to the US? They're not they're not beating a path to get to Pakistan. They're not beating a path to Bangladesh. Okay, so there's a reason, because the foundational elements of the United States as a nation are so attractive and so powerful and so wealth creating and so free that they need to rip that apart to destroy the country. And that's what this is all about.
Interesting. The next one's an executive order reversing a Trump administration order that excluded undocumented immigrants from the census. Interesting. Very interesting. So they're trying to include undocumented immigrants into the census now, which will... Do you know what that'll do? That'll end up, for example, adding more Congress seats to certain states because the population goes up. Whereas if you take the census data before, and this just occurred to me, it would be less. For example, in California, so many people are moving out of California that they're going to lose 2 seats due to redistricting.
Where are they going?
Well,
Texas.
Texas is getting one.
There you go.
And this is the funny thing, guys. In most of these states, the Republicans are going to win they've got control over redistricting, which means that in 2022, in the midterm elections, we're going to see probably a red wave, even if Trump doesn't intervene at all, because their incredibly vulnerable seats are up for grabs. But that's just a little tidbit for you. The next is a memorandum directing officials to preserve and fortify the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program. I think that's something to do with immigration and kids coming from the southern border. Do you know anything else about that?
Oh, yeah. See, they were using the DACA program, which, again, they always give a program a name that sounds like it's a laudable objective, but the reality was it was being used by child traffickers to grab kids and walk across the border. So if this old man wanders across the border with a child, I'm his dad, I'm his dad. And they actually started doing the DNA tests.
Oh.
Have we covered this before?
Not really, no.
Again, just in case we haven't, or for those that are new to the program, what Trump introduced, and it came up through a piece of advice from somebody. Let's just leave it at that. And what they started doing, they started DNA testing, and they could get a turnaround within a few hours. And so child and man would come across, and they'd do a quick DNA test, no connection. And what he cut down on wasn't looking after the children and locking them up, because that's what Barack Obama and Joe Biden did as president and vice president. They were locking up kids, but they wanted the program in order to allow child trafficking to occur on a major scale. And I apologise, I can't remember the actual numbers, but the number of kids that were saved from being sex trafficked was huge, because they did a simple DNA test, result in a few hours on the ground. The old man went straight into jail. You're a sex trafficker. That's exactly what it was. And the kids could be looked after properly, rather than just funneling them through, waving them through. Yeah. And then the next thing, the old man gets and sometimes it's women, and sometimes it's families. So this isn't a male thing. They used anybody to get the kids in. But if there wasn't a DNA connection, they locked up the adults, and the kids get looked after, as opposed to under Biden when he was vice president, the child sex trafficking was huge. And so people are aware, sex trafficking is projected to overtake drugs and guns as the most profitable. Think about this for a bit. Most profitable earner for organised crime. And that's why Barry Soetto and his husband Michael were so keen on this whole thing.
Oh, that's shocking. That's actually shocking.
So this is, you really got to dive into this, guys. Yeah,
it's a big topic, and Trump did a phenomenal job with everything he did with that, like that and the wall. In fact, if for those of you who don't know, the reason why they take kids is not just for the trafficking trade, but it's also to get themselves in, because it's like a passport in a way. Because if it's just, a group of 50 men coming, then they're not going to let them in. It's going to be like 50 Syrian men rocking up to the UK. They're going to be like, no, you're not coming in. But if you've got kids with you, it complicates things. Kids and
the Middle Eastern example, it wasn't unusual for the men to dress up in a full burqa.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. It was just exactly what they used to do.
Wow.
And then they'd either kill the kids or sell the kids. They didn't matter. They just wanted to get across, and that's the way they did it.
Interesting. The next executive order is an executive or action repealing two proclamations informally known as the Muslim ban that restricted entry into the US from major Muslim countries. Now, I'm so glad they brought this up, because the Muslim ban was actually, it stole some of the hard work from the Obama administration. The Obama administration came up with a list of like 19 or so Muslim countries that they deemed a threat and probably action should be taken on to combat Islamic terrorism, radical Islamic terrorism. Well, Trump just grabbed the list and he said, okay, well, I'm going to keep progressing with this. And then they all, light their hair on fire and run around. It's like, what happened? This is Obama's work. I thought it was his economy, wasn't it? Well, this just like, if it was Obama's economy, this is also his hard work. Trump just followed through with it. Now, Trump did later on reverse his stance on the Muslim ban, but that's beside the point. Did you want to say anything on this? Or?
Oh, no. As you say, this is... Again, the point here isn't necessarily the policy in and of itself. It's the fact that sociopaths will do something, and when you do it, they accuse you of doing wrong, and when they do it, it's okay. And you've just got to constantly pay attention, because the lies come. There's a line out of Apocalypse Now. The bull dust, inverted commas, piled up so fast you needed wings to stay above it, and that's why people get confused. Oh no, this is black. Oh no, this is white. Oh no, this is black. Oh no, this is white. Yeah. And eventually just shake their head and they go back to watching My Kitchen Rules.
Yeah, that's why I get paid for what I do, guys. It's not fun to go through the bull dust. Another one we won't go into depth on is an executive order revoking Trump's harsh and extreme immigration enforcement and directing agencies to set immigration policies more in line with the Obama administration's values and priorities. I wonder what values and priorities those would be.
Oh, child sex trafficking, drugs, guns, destroying the United States from within, allowing illegal immigration to destroy the economy. There's any number of values that the Biden administration is carrying on with.
And priorities being globalism. a proclamation that will pause the construction of the border wall with Mexico and determine how to best divert those funds elsewhere. I know. Well, because walls don't work, Riccardo. They don't work.
Once again, look, just look at what he's doing, and you now know why he's doing it. They're going to destroy the US.
A memorandum extend a designation allowing... Sorry, I'm going to say this again. Liberians. A memorandum extended... let me say this again. This is all going to get cut. A memorandum to extend a designation allowing Liberians who have been to the US for a long time to stay. Okay, that just seems like another...
Sideline on Liberia. It's named Liberia for liberty. Its capital is Monrovia. US President Monroe, when a lot of the free slaves were freed, helped them repatriate to Africa, and this country called Liberia was created in Monrovia after the US president was named the capital. It is a hellhole by any description. It is awful. It is absolutely awful. And I find it fascinating that if they've been here a long time, this doesn't say anything about whether they've had a clean record. It doesn't say whether they've contributed meaningfully to the growing of the economy or anything like that. No, if you've been here a long time, you can stay. That's one country you don't want people from. And there's any number of countries that are just appalling. So this is just ridiculous nonsense.
Interesting. The next one's very interesting. An executive order directing the government to interpret the Civil Rights Act as prohibiting workplace discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, not just race, colour, religion, sex, and national origin. For those of you that don't know, in California, they actually repealed the American Civil Rights Act so that they could discriminate based on all of those areas because they need to achieve true equity amongst people so that everyone's the equal sharing of nothing, basically. But we won't go any... we've all talked about that to death.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Gender and identity. Okay, so you get... And this is a real example. There's a 56-year-old man, father of about 6 or 7 kids, decided he was a 6-year-old girl. Now, if somebody wants to wear a dress and pretend he's a 6-year-old girl, that's fine. But the rest of us shouldn't have to put up with it. Now, imagine that guy. What this law says is that guy wants to go to the little girl's change room at the local pool. You can't discriminate against him. How you feeling, Mum and Dad? You're nice and comfortable with that? Because that's what that means.
Interesting. The next one's an executive order enacting new ethics rules to government officials. I don't... Is that rules for thee but not for me? Is that
oh, man.
That's a great as a quote. An executive order reversing regulatory process executive orders enacted by the Trump administration. I think that just sounds like they're cutting his regulation cutting stuff, basically.
It does.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's actually the top 17.
Well, he can be assassinated now and Kamala can replace him because most of the hard work's done.
Exactly. Oh, boy. So Dan Crenshaw was sort of dissecting some of these things. He said, who's this agenda helping? The Paris Agreement? Did we talk about the Paris Agreement? Oh, no, we did.
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah. Paris Agreement, the China and European diplomats, it helps them. The Keystone Pipe... they're going to cancel the Keystone Pipeline. That's going to help the Russian oligarchs. They're stopping the wall, which is helping illegal immigrants. All of this screws over the working class. American priorities, small business, reopening and recovering, nowhere to be found. That is the situation we find ourselves in. The pipeline that we're talking about, guys, that was going from Canada to America, and it was really going to help them. Yet Joe Biden forgot that he promised to never end fracking. Yet here we are. We're in a situation where Canada is losing 2,000 jobs because of this, and America will lose 10,000 jobs. Day one. This is just one day. Isn't that insane? This is someone I've been meaning to introduce to actually both Riccardo and the audience. This is Maxime Bernier of Canada. He almost won control of the Conservative Party 3 or 4 years ago. And Maxime Bernier runs a alternative party now called the People's Party of Canada. It's an unfortunate set of letters because it's also the People's Party of China. But this is what he had to say about the pipeline.
Hi everybody. Sad news today for Canada. We just learned that Joe Biden will kill the Keystone XL pipeline expansion on his first day as US president. Now it is more important than ever for our prosperity to have a pipeline that would give us access to open sea and new markets for our oil and gas. The PPC is the only political party that will use the Constitution to allow the construction of an interprovincial pipeline. We will do it for the unity and prosperity of our country. You can count on us.
For those of you that couldn't stand the accent, his first language is French. That is one of the primary languages of Canada. But if I was in Canada, I'd be a member of that party because I've been following him for a while. He's pretty solid. He's got some really intelligent policies. I think he wants to pin the Canadian currency to gold or something.
Smart move. We'll do the same.
Yeah,
sound money. Sound money. It needs to be backed by something tangible and real with real value.
Hey, go on a tangent if you want. We've actually never talked about this. Isn't that funny? What are the benefits of doing that?
Well, because what they're currently doing, the major problem is that unsound money. The banks are lending you money on money that doesn't exist. They're actually earning interest on something that doesn't exist. Fractional reserve banking, really quickly, is the basis of it. Now, a bank, if for every $100, every $10 it's got in the bank, it can lend 9 because it only needs to have 10% in real currency in the bank. So its debt, the balance sheet on debt is huge, and they like it big because they can lend, they only need 10% of the actual amount of money they are lending. So you borrow 100, they only got 10. They fabricate with a digital touch of the keyboard this other fictitious money, which you are now paying interest on. So they're earning interest on something that doesn't exist. It's called fractional reserve banking. Now, this is the basis to our banking system, and it's a massive fraud. In the old days, sound money was backed by something. And if you had a dollar note, it was worth $1 worth of gold. Now, gold has retained its value, and the famous story that goes round is that 2,000 years ago in ancient Rome, a really nice toga, a real quality toga, would cost about would cost a gold coin, plus or minus. Today, that gold coin still buys you a really nice suit. So that one gold coin, that gram, not the gram, the ounce of gold, let's say, that's worth $1,300 or whatever it is currently worth. 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years in Rome, it still bought you the nice suit. Today, that same ounce of gold buys you a nice suit.
Yeah. Isn't that
funny? So it retains its value.
Yeah.
But the fictitious money, the unsound money, the inflation that is created to reduce your spending power strips that away. But if it's actually based on something tangible and real like gold, then it doesn't do that. It retains its value. And if you look at the buying power of a dollar today compared to the buying power of a dollar 50 years ago or 100 years ago, you buy so much less. And that's an intentional strategy and outcome by the globalists who run the economy to make sure that we are constantly on the back foot. We just can't keep up. We might get a pay rise, but effectively our purchasing power goes backwards.
Yeah.
Because the dollar is not based on anything tangible. The old expression, it's as good as gold.
Yeah.
That grew out of the decision to stop backing the dollar with gold. This is as good as gold was the old expression. Oh, it's not. No, it's not.
That's very interesting. Yeah, gold's certainly something that, it'd be very good to see that sort of system come in. We've had a lot of talk about unity, bringing the country together in this incredibly divisive time due to Donald Trump being a fascist. So while Joe Biden was guarded by 25,000 American troops, he said this in his speech at Inauguration Day yesterday morning. He said, "Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation, and I ask every American to join me in this cause." Now, first off, I'm really proud of him saying that in one breath. Secondly, he didn't write that. Thirdly, I don't know, Riccardo, what do you think about it?
Well, was this the clone or was this the real Joe Biden? I've just got to put that out there. But anyway.
We got fact checked again.
This is... AAP doesn't check that. Look at the earlobes, folks. Look at the earlobes. Sorry, let's get serious. Bringing people together. He spent all this time tearing the country apart, dividing.
Yeah.
Again, it's a lovely sentiment. It doesn't originate from him. It's written for him. He has no idea what's going on, and it's great. It's a movie they're showing to explain to the people that things are good.
I can't help but point out that if he wanted unity, he could talk to the big tech oligarchs that really like him and say, how about you unban Trump? Wouldn't that be a step in the right direction? Why don't you unban all those tens of thousands of people you've been purging these last few days? It's not a bad start, you know. And you know, to his credit, I'd give him credit if he did that. Like,
You're not putting the lie to what he said, are you? Oh, you're a bad man, Joel.
No, just trying to say. I'm just saying, Joe. I'm just saying, follow through. It's all about actions, right? Actions are louder than words. So, in the wake of all this, obviously, what we're seeing is a big crackdown. Hillary Clinton. I know, I'm sorry. I know you love my face. Hillary Clinton said this. She wondered if Trump spoke to Putin on the day of the Capitol riot. I would love to see his phone records.
I'd love to see her emails.
That's a great question.
You first.
You first. So basically, what we are seeing, everything we saw from the age of terror, the Muslim terror, all of those weapons that we used in the Obama time and under the Bush time, the administration as well, they are now going to be turned on, not white supremacists, not white nationalists, as Biden noted. They're going to be turned on Americans. That is exactly what's going to happen.
Multiracial whiteness?
Yeah.
Wow, that is newspeak.
I know. They haven't heard this yet. So there was an article written. I think this is from the Washington Post. It said, in order to understand Trump's support, we must think in terms of multiracial whiteness.
That means black whiteness, brown whiteness, yellow whiteness.
Exactly. This is what they say. You have internalized colonialism in you. So I do apparently. I am a self-hating Syrian. You are a self-hating Italian. You are not a part of the endangered class anymore.
Oh.
See, they did this to the Asians, and then they did this to the Jews because they became successful. They said you have internalized whiteness, as if it's the grounds to stop you from going to Harvard, which actually that's a true story. You kind of fact check me on that. This is what we're looking at, guys. They are so deranged. They do not believe that a black person, like this is the head of the chairman of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, who was not allowed to go to the protests.
Enrique Tarrio. There's an Anglo-Celtic.
Yeah, exactly. And so the cognitive dissonance, it's hilarious to watch. They can't understand how a black guy is cheering the white nationalists, the Proud Boys. By the way, the Proud Boys aren't really a thing in Australia, so everyone can stop, running around with their hair on fire. It's actually not a thing here. But it will become a thing if you guys keep this censorship up, we'll come to. I wanted to come to this very quickly. I'm tying off a loose end. I've said in the past that there have been reports of Antifa being at the Capitol breakout, but I hadn't actually seen a face and a name and an arrest take place yet. Well, this is actually the first one that's happened. There were 13 arrests on the day, but they were actually all Trump supporters, and I've verified each one of them. However, this happened a bit later. This is John Sullivan. He's an anarchist who was also at a Black Lives Matter rally. Now, he was at this event and he was really egging on the Trump supporters, and when he finally got everyone into the Capitol, he said, we did it, we've actually broken in. He was egging them on, and then not long after, he was put on CNN put them on, and he was treated like a citizen journalist, that's what it was. Whereas he was actually stoking fear. Very frustrating. I mean, there's a post there, right there, you can see where he's written counter intel. If you're going to do this sort of stuff, guys, just don't be stupid about it, be professional, don't go posting about it, try and be, covert, as they might say. We need to deal with this topic, and this is, you guys know, this is the weekly part of the show these last 3 weeks, where Riccardo and I go back and forth on the QAnon stuff. So, this is from Luke Radowski. He's a good friend of Tim Pool. He's always on his show. He's been a big, avid opponent of the QAnon theories. He said, for all of you QAnon people, I told you so. I wish I could have done more to expose the disinformation of the disinformation propaganda site. You were manipulated into but YouTube made it impossible to even critique your movement. There were videos I wanted to put up, I couldn't even do it because YouTube would have banned the video. Now, Riccardo, this is obviously in the wake of Inauguration Day. Last week I said there were a number of predictions made, especially from the Q people, saying that Trump's got this. I know he wants everyone in the same spot so we can arrest them in one foul swoop. Didn't happen. And I woke up at 4 a.m. yesterday so that I could actually watch that happen. Where does Q stand? I've been calling it a cult this last few couple of weeks because of the way a lot of the followers have been talking about me. You know, I got thick skin, no worries, but when they start adopting the same tactics as progressives in the way that they speak online with you, and it becomes very cultish and they don't listen to what you're saying and they just assume the worst and say you're a plan. It's like, okay, what's really going on here? What's your take on all this? Is Q sort of dead? Is it moving on in another form? Did he get something wrong, or is he 100% right, and is Trump going to still get in?
You want to talk about Trump or Q or both?
Let's talk about Q.
Okay. Come back to Trump later. As I speak to many of my supporters, they say, whether do they want to sit on Q, or whether you personally sit on Q. And there's these three levels of information. Center is hard, verifiable facts. That's the stuff that we base our plans upon. It makes sense. Then the next level out is possibly true, and we're across that in case things change quickly, and we're poised to react and respond to a new piece of intelligence, but we don't believe it, we don't base anything on it. And on the periphery, you've got possibly true, just weird stuff that's out there. Could be true, could not be true. We monitor it, but we certainly don't make any plans. Now, Q is not in that centre bit. Okay, Q is one of those things where everyone's got an opinion. Some of the stories are compelling, some are obviously just nonsense, and you don't know the origin of the interpretations. There's a series of Q posts, and people are very good at making sense out of the Q posts, and I've tried occasionally to look at the Q posts and they point out what's going on, and I sort of shake hands, I'm sorry, but I'm just a simple soldier. I can't take from the Q post what you are, but there are some very intelligent commentators, and good, reliable people, they're not lunatics, and I listen to what they say. But again, that's not in that centre core of data, facts that we base it. So I've always looked at Q as an interesting phenomenon. I've watched it very, very closely. There's some fascinating stories, there's some great photographs of people and things. The problem with the Q issue was not so much, say, the Q drops, if they are actually real and if they actually are interpreted correctly. It's the people then that spin off. It's the QAnons, not Q, you spin it off. The QAnons are some are great and really reliable, and others are just see fantasies. And then on top of that, you've got people that are there to destroy whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying it is right or it is wrong. Hand on heart, I have no idea. So I'm not going to say Q is correct. So, but I watch it reasonably closely in order to know what's going on. And so you've got people interpreting the drops pretty well, others interpreting it badly, and others fabricating nonsense around it in order to cause concern. So I'm pretty relaxed about it. I'm sitting there quietly. Now, it's all gone quiet, have you noticed? Yeah, everything's very quiet. Nobody's tweeting. It's all shut down. And this is apart from the social media platforms that are closing down people. Other people are just not communicating at all, because there are ways around it. Nobody of real import is tweeting Trump, Flynn, all the others that are serious players. And I think Flynn at one point said, most of what you hear alleged to be from Q is complete nonsense. He actually said that. And so that makes sense. So, is Q real or not real? Nothing has occurred to prove it one way or the other. Okay. Nothing tangible has occurred. Right. No, that's why I couldn't say, it's all over. Slow down. Yeah. It's not all over. Q, again, there is no definitive evidence that it has failed or it has succeeded. It is still this thing that things come out, people interpret it, and they can make their own conclusions. So I'm quite relaxed about it, because a lot of the Q stuff I look at and go, okay, what do you reckon? That sounds like nonsense to me, and we move on. Other things will pop up and go, well, that's technically sound from my professional background. I go, that makes sense. But again, I don't base any of our planning decisions on anything coming out of Q. So people shouldn't be worried. And I told you so. I think you're a bit premature. And if anybody says If the Q people say, I was right, they're premature as well.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of stay cool, stay calm, take a chill pill, let things play out.
Yeah.
And what people have to understand, once again, this isn't over, it's never over. See, I think I described it once before, there is no peace and then war. There's competition, increasing tension, war, decreasing tension, competition. It never stops. See, this is where, I guess, the conservative side, I'm talking about the big players, but people think, oh, we won, it's finished. No, every day the war continues. Look at Biden. They want to impeach Trump after the fact. Now, we talk about that in a minute, but it never stops.
Yeah.
It never stops.
Absolutely.
Every day is another battle. You've got to gird your loins and fight. And when you start getting tired, you take your place, you're about to fall over, but you've got to keep going. So, no, to say I told you so is premature. To say that the Q is right is premature.
Yeah.
Let this play out, because the game's not over, not by a long shot.
See, I'm exactly the same, and I've said this 1,000 times. My approach to conspiracies is they're there in the corner. I keep an eye on them because they're sometimes right. I mean, I think possibly not the Q, but other conspiracies last year when coronavirus came out, they were on the ball with the lab stuff, and they were early, yet they were censored online. And then later on, they were vindicated by more information, by more credible people in the club, news outlets, which said actually it might have come from all that. But this is the annoying thing. We still don't actually know the origins of COVID-19, but it's annoying because these conspiracy theories, they actually get stuff right, and you guys censor them anyway. It's like, put the ideas out there. If they're wrong, then this sort of thing will happen. People, they'll get called out, and they'll be like, no, you were wrong on this, and they'll hopefully admit, yes, we were wrong. But the problem is when you censor them, they go into their own private area. It's like prison. You send someone to prison, they will re-offend, because you put them with all the other naughty kids in the class, and then it becomes an echo chamber, and they get worse. See, if you keep them exposed to the world, then you will be able to moderate the idiotic ideas. And trust me, as Riccardo said, there are people outside that circle that get all this information from Q, and they just completely, they take it, they just run with it, and they never stop.
And it gives them, look, I understand it psychologically, it gives them something to latch onto, whether they're for or against.
Opium, that's what I call it.
And all of a sudden they get a few followers, and then people start to get a sense of, wow, I've got 15 followers, and I've got 150, and I've got 15,000. And it's an aphrodisiac, it really is, and they get wedded to this thing.
Yeah.
Just follow the truth. Look, if you love Q, keep loving Q. And if you think it's nonsense, keep saying it's nonsense. But the game's not over, just please, don't fall into the trap of thinking because Biden has been inaugurated, it's all done. Not by a long shot.
Yeah, it was just the people saying that were offshooting from Q,
that's right.
saying that, oh no, from what I've read from Q, because Q, as you said, is very cryptic, from what I've read from it, it seems like there's, on Inauguration Day he's rounding them up and he's going to do it in one fell swoop. Okay, but so that's what Luke's attacking. See, a lot of people, including myself, we don't read the cryptic stuff. We only hear the crazy stuff that gets tweeted out from offshoots, including one of the lawyers, I don't know if it was one of Trump's lawyers, but one of the lawyers that was working on Trump's lawsuit, or his own lawsuit. What was his name? Very prominent lawyer that's been, not Sydney Powell, the other one. Anyway, the point is that a lot of people are making a big career on this opium, and it's actually quite immoral if you ask me what they're doing. So I have to bring these people back to earth.
But this is, look, just to make the point, so we're clear on this.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's a natural phenomenon. There's nothing unusual about hanging on a queue and dismissing it and everything in between. Example. When a child goes missing, I'm going to give you specific ones. I just finished reading the book about William Tyrrell, the little boy that went missing in a place called Kendall, New South Wales. And bit by bit, the story was let out, and then certain facts were being withheld from the public, and they leaked out about foster parents and the biological parents, and then the Department of Children's the Department of, just cut this video here, but it's the name of DAS, Department of and Children's Services. The Department of Children's Services is getting involved, and certain things were concealed. And also, what happened was, and what this book reveals, is a fantastic book by a local And so she understood the people, she understood the area, she knew the background. And it's called Looking for Spider-Man, because he was in a Spider-Man outfit. But the point was, one of the points she made in the book was, the online community would latch onto a theory and it would just expand in one direction or expand in another and expand. And it became quite difficult for the coppers to try to follow it down because there were so many suggestions, but they were being flooded with so many tips and clues that they had to really trawl through tons of soil to get to the nuggets. Yeah. And so it's a natural phenomenon when there's only a little bit of information and people's imagination run wild. And as I said, somebody makes a point, they get some followers, they get excited, and the last thing they want to do is retract their statement and go, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong there. They don't want to do it, they lose their people, they lose it. And so I thought it's a natural thing. So the key thing, it's not over, whether it's real or not, whether it's, J.F. Kennedy Jr. or not, it makes no difference. Just let it run. The battle's not over. Don't be tricked into thinking this is finished. Don't pack up and go home. No. And we'll talk about the Trump in the future later. But please don't. This still amazes me. The people's desire to wave the white flag and walk away.
Oh, no, that's what frustrated us. We talked about it last week, and it was a very good segment. And it's funny, we said it, and then people actually wrote articles about it on the conservative side, which was really to their
is that right? Okay, good.
Yeah, I won't say it, I won't embarrass them. But no, I saw an article come out where I said, basically, I think people were being lazy because they trust the planet. Is it putting them into a false sense of doing nothing? And we don't want that. Because the fruit of the, it's funny, from the Bible there's this great quote, which is, the fruit of the Spirit is love, peace, patience, forbearance. It's like it's works. Coming back to this, if the fruit of Q is that you on an individual level, on a group level, should do nothing because, Riccardo's running for the ball and he's got this. No, that is not what you should be doing. That, in fact, it might even be, you never hear me throw this around, it might even be bordering on the line of psyop if it means that you should not do anything.
You're exactly right, and this idea of you've got to do something. Let me bring this one in now because I'm coming from an oblique angle, but it's germane to the discussion. I get occasional pushback and very angry emails from people who are disappointed because sometimes I swear. And I take that criticism, I shouldn't swear, I don't get it. On my level, it reveals an inability to communicate in a more cogent and mature way. But as Mark Twain once said, the profanity provides relief even denied prayer. Particularly when the issue is so egregious and the blindness, the willful blindness or just downright stupidity of people not to see what is in front of their faces and then take action. So when I swear, I apologise. I really do, so I shouldn't. But when the criticism comes from people who have never once publicly taken action, and I say this with all the love in my heart, I don't care about you. And I remember that struck me. I was in 6th grade at school, and I think it was 6th grade. No, a bit older. No, I was a bit older. But Alan Jones, not the radio commentator, the Australian Formula One champion, there's a guy called Alan Jones, and he won the F1 championship one year. And Australia loved him. He was a champion, he was a great bloke. He had reached the top of his game in one of the toughest sports on the planet because F1 driving is hard and dangerous. And so he did it. And I read an interview, he said, the love of the fans is great, but what I really want is, not want, but what I appreciate is probably a better way of saying it. What I appreciate is my peers saying you did a good job. That's more meaningful. Again, with all of my heart, folks, unless you're on the field with me, I don't care whether you cheer or not, and I don't care whether you're disappointed that I swear or not, it means nothing. It really means nothing. Get on the field. Because there is no half-time, there is no referee, there are no interchange rules, there is no break. Every week we have to do our bit. Every day we do our bit. Every hour we do our bit. Every morning to night at our house. And the little girls sometimes say, Dad, can we politics free day? Then the phone will ring and I'm gone for the next 3 hours. On no-nos. So unless that's the level of effort you're putting in, you can be disappointed, I swear, and I apologise because I know it degrades the tenor of the argument, it degrades A1, it degrades my argument. I understand that. But you've got to understand, I don't care, because unless you're bleeding on the field with me, it doesn't matter what you think. You tell you what, you put in the same effort that a lot of us are putting in. We were at a team at A1, and these guys and girls, my goodness me, they are talented, hard-working, they are indefatigable, they just keep going. They put in everything. And occasionally we have energetic discussions and the odd swear word pops up and some people can't handle it and they walk away. And you know what? If a swear word puts you off your game and you are willing to accept a polite, well-spoken politician who protects pedophiles, you're not made of the right stuff. We don't want you in A1. So you can criticise me, but you've got to be on the field, bleeding, before you can tell me how to run my game. And I mean that with all the love of my heart. I don't care what you think, unless you're there putting in. We've got skin in the game. I don't know who you are, and I don't much care. I really don't. And even that 74-year-old woman that put in $2, she has skin in the game. And she didn't write to me and say, please don't swear. She said, I can only donate $2. You know the transfer of the cash probably cost her more? But she understands. $2. That's all she could do. Skin in the game. So folks, you've really got to, getting back to the point now, you've got to be on the field, you've got to take action, be the plan. That's why I'm relaxed, trying to get elected. Like every good plans officer, you plan for what's probable, you plan for what's possible, and you plan for even the improbable if the consequence is catastrophic. Okay, that's the way you do a risk analysis of any situation. It's highly unlikely, but if it does, it is exactly catastrophic, so you better have a plan. And so what we do is we plan. Probable, possible, improbable, but catastrophic. And so when it happens, we're relaxed. Why? It's not a problem. Again, in military planning, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I have to, in the movies, something goes wrong, they'll run, what do we do next? No. You think it through beforehand. I'll give you an example, a very simple one. In a set of orders, at the lowest level, so it's done at the highest level, without a shadow of a doubt. Strategic planning, if it goes wrong, what do we do? If this happens, what do we do? If this happens, what do we do? If this happens? So it's all done. But even at the lowest level, then stage control. An infantry section makes no difference. Orders have the same sequence. Situation, mission, execution, admin, law, command, and SIG. Same format. And under the execution, there's a paragraph that reads actions on. And what the commander does, whether it's a sergeant or a general, says, if this goes wrong, we do this. And he briefs them, and they have to memorise it. Action on compromise is the primary insertion point. Action on compromise on the alternative insertion point. Action on compromise on the secondary insertion point. Action on also communications with this. Action on, action on, action on. So when it goes south, and the lads have to remember this, and then if people think soldiers are very bright, we can lift heavy things, man. In this SAS map, if you get it, there's not one mark on it. Why? They have to memorise every grid reference, 60 grid reference. Wow. So at the end of the orders, I'll say, right, questions. Any questions from you? I'll go through the questions. Then I go through each patrol member. Joel, what's the grid reference to the primary insertion point? That's grid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tom, what's the grid reference to the secondary insertion point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Great. What's the insertion point? What's the alternate insertion point? Bang. Where's the target grid reference? Where's this grid reference? Where is this? They have to memorise the entire plan from start to finish. Because if they get captured, there's not a map with red and blue lines on it. There's just a piece of paper that means nothing. Yeah. That's how you plan. That's how you anticipate. Now back to the game. Get on the field and bleed with us. Because if you don't, I don't much care what you think. So if you're offended by my lack of control and swearing, I'm sorry. But that comes under the category of pole vaulting over monstrosities. I'm not going to do it. I don't do it for effect. It is just sheer frustration. Because imagine this, the most important thing you've got to tell someone, the most important thing they'll ever hear, and you try to do it quietly, and you try to do it this way, and you yell at them, and they're just looking at you stupefied. It is just sheer frustration, folks. Yeah. So we are telling you about vaccines. We are telling you that people are dying for vaccines. We are telling you you don't have to wear a mask. We are telling you, fill in the blank. And you look at me and you say, well, you swear too much, so I'm not going to vote for you. Well, you go vote for the politicians to speak politely and protect pedophiles, because that's what you're doing. And worse, you're paying for it. And if you take the vaccines, you'll die.
And the equivalent of that is what we just saw in the US. There was a great tweet by this conservative lady, and what she said was, all you evangelical Christians that voted for Biden because Trump's tweets were not nice, well, now you've got a situation where one of the executive orders he's just signed, which was the gender equality executive order, basically means that now from that they can have transgendered men that have now changed to a woman in the same bathrooms that your daughters occupy. Well done.
Was that actually a significant number of people, the evangelicals, voted for Biden?
Oh yeah. Just because they didn't like his tweets, Riccardo, because he was too mean sometimes. But well done. Now your taxes are going to get hiked. Now electricity is going to go through the roof, and your kids are going to be sent off to war again. Where we're getting to that, but honestly, all because of some tweets. So look, great. It's a great point because I've been told this a few times as well. It's a great point.
I'll do my best not to swear again.
I'm talking about you. I'm actually talking about me. I'm reflecting it. I get the whole swearing thing, and I've made a conscious effort this year to not do it. There's a lot of credit to it, but again, first off, what are you doing? Again, from the Bible, it says, faith without works is dead. So what are we going to talk about in this situation? We're going to talk about progress. We're going to talk about not allowing people to actually say these slogans like trust the plan, move forward, do something, as Riccardo says, get on the field. Moving on, this is an interesting assessment. This is from Rogan O'Hadley. He said, this is a possible way we can move the country forward with Trump. He says, Trump runs for Congress in Florida, because that's where he lives. You have a red wave in the midterm elections with the House of Congress and also the Senate in 2022. Trump is elected as Speaker of the House with Ted Cruz as the Senate majority, because as I said before, in 2022, they're in vulnerable seats, the Democrats. They're in vulnerable seats. And then the step after that they'd impeach Biden and Kamala for, I wouldn't even know what they'd impeach them for because there's so many things. And they'd both be removed. Well, guess who's third in line? It's the Speaker of the House, Donald Trump. And so he'd be the is that how it works? 27th President of the United States? Or does he just be, the 47th? Or did he just become the 45th again?
Well, it depends on which, okay, we'll bring that up later, go on.
Yeah.
He'd be the 47th.
He'd be the 47th. Now, look, there's a number of different things that can happen from here. Some people have been saying, and I don't even know how they get their sources on this, some people have been saying Donald Trump is starting a new party because the Republicans have let him down too many times.
Party, yeah.
The Patriot Party, maybe, who knows? I don't know. I haven't seen anything solid on this, but I'm just telling you what the what people are saying. But also, he's and I think this is an excellent idea. He's also talking about starting his own media organization, which is imperative. You need new media that can also be on cable to cater for a certain demographic. I think that could be really good. But also, I should mention that Pompeo, who was the now former Secretary of State, he tweeted out a countdown until the 2024 presidential election, almost alluding to possibly him running. It's hard to say. Maybe it's just until the next administration comes back in. Who knows? But that's where things stand. Where do you think Trump goes from here now that he's...
Okay, let's get some context. Trump never moves forward until he's crossed every T and dotted every I. And if you read about him and you read his the books about him, he's very careful. It doesn't mean you win every battle because other people have their input to any plan. But he never moves forward unless he's exactly sure that everything that he possibly can cater for has been catered for. And then he moves forward. So he's very careful, very meticulous. And that's why he wins so often, because the opposition rarely has the ability to do it. Let me give you an example. When he was building, I think it was Trump Tower, but he cut the contract, and just like the military planning where you have actions on, he looked at where the potential dangers are. And in one of the clauses, he overpaid the workers to make sure they were well compensated. He did that. That's a smart business move. And then at one point, the the union said, "Oh, look, I'm sorry, we got real internal problems with the. We're going to have to stop work on your building," and Trump didn't even miss a beat. Within 12 to 24 hours, the whole new workforce arrived and kept building. And they said, "What are you doing?" He said, "It's in the contract. If you pull out for these reasons, I'm not paying you, and I can bring new people in." And so it's that actions on, actions on, actions on. So you got to understand that about, this is just setting into context, you got to understand that about Trump. The guy is highly intelligent. I love it when people say he's stupid because he doesn't speak good or English, right?
And they can't have it both ways. He can't be an evil dictator,
an evil genius,
but also be stupid, like you're saying.
He is profoundly intelligent, and I know that really grates people. It really does. But he's not only, there's cunning and there's really intelligent, right?
Like, he didn't write his book. He had someone do it for him.
He didn't write it.
But it's a different type of intelligence, and that's what you get from being in property over there, because it's a dog-eat-dog world.
You become a billionaire in New York property market? Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly.
So, context before I answer the question. The Big Don is an absolute champion. He plans meticulously. He executes ruthlessly, absolutely ruthlessly. Not without morals, but it's really clear. And so this is the entire way that he ran the presidency. And in answer to your question, what's he doing now or what's happening now, understand the Big Don. Nothing happens by accident. If he needs to pull back, he will. If he needs to move forward, he will. He can do a Napoleonic strategic maneuver if he wants to. But he's very, very careful. That's point number one. Point number two. The deep state is back in control, so they think. They are going to take him out. Imagine what he now knows. Do you think they're going to let this guy live?
Yeah.
Metaphorically or literally? Of course not. They are after him. That's why they have to impeach him. But it's not just to prevent him from becoming president again. They want him dead.
Yeah.
Physically dead. Because what he now knows, after 4 years of having the entire intelligence apparatus of the United States at his fingertips, he knows where every body is buried, literally, not metaphorically. He knows the bad guys, and they know he knows, and that's why they're panicking. So understand now, imagine this. You're a meticulous planner, you're a ruthless executioner, and you know everything that there is to know. What do you think they want to do to him? They want to take him out. What does he want to do? He wants to win. Don likes to win. He doesn't lose. So the fact that Biden's been inaugurated, it means nothing. Relax. The war continues, and Don isn't licking his wounds or anything else. Now, just to keep it in context again, he didn't turn up to Biden's inauguration.
Yeah.
That wasn't because he was being mean-spirited at all. When you understand they want him dead, and it's not just the Democrats, it's just not the deep state. It is China. It is Iran. There are a lot of bad actors out there, very bad people, that physically want to take him out.
Yeah.
So he left for the safety of himself and his family, because they know that they were targets. And there were, I'm not sure if this hit the mainstream media, probably not, there was an attempt on his life in the last week. And there were numerous over the course of the 4 years that never made the mainstream media. There were multiple attempts on his life. And so that was for safety reasons, because had he turned up, anything could have happened. And so he didn't. And so for his own safety. And from what I understand, he was in a very secure location, protected by his own people. And that was always, I got asked about that when he was first elected. You know, what about the Secret Service? Yeah, he had the Secret Service, but his own people too. And he doesn't trust anybody outside. And that makes sense. So I tell you all that story to tell you this next story. What's going to happen next? Okay, now, all of these scenarios, he's going to do this and become the speaker. Yeah, they're all... This is like the QAnons with their conspiracy theories, and 1 and 1 equals 2, and 2 and 2 equals 4, and 4 and 2 equals 78.
In the Hebrew alphabet.
Here we go. And so that's all, and that's just fun.
Yeah.
But okay, so Don knows what he needs to do. Don's got the background. The best way, and listen to my words extremely carefully, hold your horses. There's going to be a gamble. Hold your horses, there's going to be a gamble, and that's all I can say. Not that Trump gambles, he never gambles, he plans, but there's a gamble. And people who know what I'm talking about will know what I'm talking about. So just relax about Trump. He knows what he knows. They want him dead. It's a fight to the death. Do you really think that they will allow him and his family to just walk away and live their life? Does anybody really believe that? Of course not. No. They will not, in any way.
Yeah.
They'll destroy him as many ways as they can. Knowing that they're coming after you, what would you do? Have a think about it. And then people will come up with their own conclusions. Oh, okay, if someone's coming after me, well, I've got to think about this and this and this, and what's the best defense, offense? Well, what do I do? And so just hold your horses. There's going to be a gamble. And so I'm not the least worried about Trump. I'm not the least worried about the longevity of the Biden administration. It might last a week. It might last 4 years. That's not the point. The point is, if you understand the man, and this is not about whether he starts a Patriot Party or whether he becomes the Speaker and then impeaches the President, the Vice President, and he's number 3. No. Understand the man, understand how this guy works, try to get to his level of thinking and understand the threats against him, stakeholder analysis, environmental analysis, and when you're looking at the players, you look at their strengths, their weaknesses, their needs, their wants and their sensitivities. This is pretty basic strategic planning that we do. And if you look at it that way, you start to realize, okay, and this isn't conspiracy theory, just do the cold, rational analysis of the situation and the man, and you'll say, okay, I'm quite relaxed about the future. I am so relaxed about the future. Do I know what's going to happen? No. But I'm not the least bit concerned about the future of the US or the future of Donald Trump. Down the track, who knows? But now, the next move, this would have been thought of a long time ago, just like the SAS patrol. What's the grid reference? What's the grid reference? What's the timing? When are we? All that sort of stuff. That's all been just thought through. He is calm, he is rational, he is methodical, and he's highly intelligent. And I know that upsets a lot of people that want to hate him, Orange Man bad.
Yeah.
But he's got an IQ that would double yours, not you, but the people that criticise.
Probably. I don't know. It's a thing.
But not only intelligent, because there are a lot of intelligent people out there, but they're not practical.
No.
They're some of the smartest dumb people I've ever met.
Oh, they're dangerous.
Right. You know the type I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
But he's not only highly intelligent in that pure IQ sense, but he's also, there's the right word for it, but at this base level, he's smart. He's cunning. He knows how the bad guys think. Does that make sense?
Instinctive. I think that's the word. It's almost animalistic in a way. It is.
He knows how the bad guys think. It's not that he's not nasty, but he knows how they think. And he can anticipate their moods because he knows what they're going to do.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising, especially considering the fact that he actually was working with them for decades before. He was a Democrat before. He was rubbing shoulders with all of these people.
He knew what they were up to.
Look at the wedding photos. Who do you see him with? Oh, Hillary Clinton. Oh, Nancy Pelosi.
And he admitted it. He is a businessman. I'll donate to you. I'll donate to you. I'll donate to everybody. I make a buck. That's my job.
Exactly. And that's a funny thing because he knows how they think. He knows who's giving him contributions and he knows it's not for nothing. So when you see the honest criminal calling all of this out, he reeks of transparency, and there's the word, transparency, and that's why he was successful. And that's why I don't have a problem with you swearing, because it's transparent.
Look, I am not the least bit concerned, and I was actually surprised at my own reaction. I'm watching the inauguration, and it was hard to stomach watching all the crims up there, and Lady Gaga singing the song saying we're back in control.
They wanted the American people rather, as far away as possible. It was literally the ivory tower meeting together. That's the rulers of the country.
Thank goodness for COVID, because there would have been nobody turn up to the inauguration. And you saw that where there were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people at Trump's inauguration, they had rows and rows of flags. Because nobody would have turned up. And they know that, and we know that. But they used the cover of COVID. But no, I watched it. And it was tough watching the criminals stand there, but it's a facade, it's fake, it's not real. But I was just surprisingly calm, and then the penny dropped, and I thought, oh, okay, now I know why I'm not worried. Not the least bit worried. I'm not worried about Q, I'm not worried about Trump, I'm not even worried about the US. It'll pan out the way it does. Now, having said that, back to your other point, that doesn't mean we sit back and do nothing. No. I've said it 1,000 times. Australia One's success will be predicated on what we do, and we don't predicate our plans on anybody else's promises. Either you're there with me or you're not, and if you're not, I'll see you later.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about Australia and the future that is in store for us. So last week we had a segment which talked about the IMOP party. Now, total transparency here. The first time I heard about IMOP was in passing. I saw some of their logos and stuff up in the Queensland election. That's the extent of it. And also the conversation we had on camera last week. Now, a lot of people have been raising some points about that segment. Total transparency here. I had a conversation with the leader of IMOP in the wake of the conversation, because he believes there were a lot of untruths that were said, and I made contact with Michael O'Neill, the leader of IMOP and the founder of IMOP, after he put a segment out, because he was fairly upset about some of the things that were said. And I took it very seriously, because I don't know a thing about IMOP, so I thought, in the event you don't know anything, you go to all sides and you get as much information as possible to work out what the truth is. Because I obviously know you, but I didn't know who Michael was. So I reached out to him, and I don't disclose private conversations. I'm just acknowledging a conversation took place. And I got what information I needed in terms of where his side of the things were. I was like, okay, no worries. We will address it today in this segment. And I haven't had a chat in depth with Riccardo about this yet. Total transparency. And in terms of the points that were raised with him, I'm gonna sort of hold your feet to the fire today.
They're burning.
And they're burning, are they?
Oh, God, yeah.
Because this is what the show. I don't want to talk about this after this segment. I want to make it absolutely clear. This show isn't meant to be a gossip show. We're in and out on topics, and we're trying to be as efficient as possible on topics, especially if we don't need to talk about it. Now, this is something that I feel like it's turning into Gossip Girl, and I don't do that. I don't do that kind of thing. So let's try and deal with this as efficiently as possible. For those IMOP viewers that are watching this, let me just firstly state the obvious and say that we're all Australians, and I like you guys, and I don't like party politics. It's not a mystery. I was in the Christian Democrat Party. I saw what a disaster that was. And I feel for you guys. I feel for you. I get it. You're trying to work out which party is meant for you. But I'm just hoping that this segment will allow you guys to actually see some of the truth about some of the claims Riccardo made last week, whether they're true, whether he's lying out of his teeth. But I just want you to know I'm on your side. This is not a propaganda segment. We're both in this journey together, just like everything else with COVID, just like climate change. We're in this together. So, Riccardo, you made a number of claims last week about IMOP. One of them was that some of their members had been trying to debunk Australia One. It was something along those lines, and you were saying that they were raising concerns in some of the meetings. You also said a number of things like IMOP stinks, and I admit it wasn't the most sophisticated word, but you made the comment anyway, and you also said that IMOP, in terms of a party, it doesn't have what it takes. It's also possibly infiltrated by the major parties. Is any of that true? I mean, where is the truth and where is the grey area?
I'm glad you used the word truth, because the head of IMOP, and I had no idea who this guy was because I wasn't much interested, Michael O'Neill, he came back and didn't address any of the substantive issues, just said, I lied. Now, and he he didn't like the fact I said, it stinks. Now, the reason I said that is because when you say someone has lied, that is now slander, and you can be taken to court for that. So I avoid words like that.
Oh.
And I say things like, it stinks, to say there's something here that is worthy of looking at. But I don't make silly claims that, if tested in a court of law, will cause someone to lose their house, let's say. Okay, so just to clarify on the loose language, I noticed that it's a very useful tool.
All right.
To say there's plenty worth looking at here, but it's something stinks. That's all it is. So just to deal with that.
So maybe be careful, Michael, for using the word lied.
Oh, I think Michael should be very careful about how he communicates his intent. So the odd sloppy word has a very specific
Well, you sound pretty confident then. Let's see what you've got.
Okay, let's go back to the next one. Next thing he pushed back on was that's right. He didn't address the substantive issues that I raised, just that I lied and then I said it stinked. Oh, and if there's anybody penetrated his party, that I should call him. Michael, it's not my job to help you survive. If you can't keep your party clean, that's your problem, mate.
That's a good point.
And you should look really hard. But I'll give you a couple of clues. Today. And if you have the wit that you think you have, then you might put 2 and 2 together and come up with something other than 5. Okay. Allegations. No contact. I never reached out. Well, when I said Michael, I talk about A1, because as you know, Leadership 101, you're in charge. Everything is on you. You can't, any leader that passes the buck and says, oh, look, I'm sorry, my coordinator messed up. they're not a leader. CEO stands for Chief Everything Officer. So when I say I reached out, that means my organisation reached out. Now, we have here a series of emails dated 12 October, 13 October, 20 October.
Can I see those when you get a chance?
Yeah, sure. 21 October and 25 October. And it's a series of emails from your Nicklin candidate. And ours kicks off with, from A1, and I won't give the names, but A1, congratulations on your candidature in Nicklin. Are you available for a phone call with Mr. Riccardo this morning? Sincerely, Chief of Staff. And we're backwards and forwards, and it says, look, really sorry, we're crazy busy, not available. How about later? And then it went backwards and forwards over a period of days. And as you can imagine, prior to the election, everyone was busy and we couldn't have the actual chat between myself and your Nicklin candidate. Then your candidate says, look, it seems we're both flat out. We're all pre-polling. How about we continue this after the election? And then my Chief of Staff came back and said, that does sound like the best course of action. We wish you all the best. See, that was us reaching out, as I said, A1I, reaching out with a friendly hand. Now, one thing led to another, and after the election, we didn't actually end up touching base, but I think we're all too busy getting on with our lives. So that puts the lie to your statement that I was lying, Michael.
Can I see the
absolutely
the emails for that?
Have a look at those. You can look at the dates.
So you were saying that it was actually you meant A1,
yes,
rather than yourself. Why? Okay. So this is
once again when you're in charge.
Why we're clarifying. Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I don't want to run the flow. What else? No, what else was said?
Okay, so that's point number one. I mentioned the other things. Now, during that exchange, and there's one small gap here. My Queensland State Coordinator received a what can be most politely described as an unprofessional call from your Nicklin candidate, claiming that I should have asked her permission to run in the seat of Nicklin, amongst other ridiculous claims. And so apparently she believes, and by she I mean IMOP, because I presume that she speaks with your voice, Michael, because you only have one authorised message. Every organisation knows that you have one authorised message that comes out. So obviously either she needs to be corrected or you authorise this approach. That she said that I should ask her permission to run in her seat, which I thought was funny because we selected the seat based on our analysis of the data from the previous election, and which is one of the 4 criteria, a winnable seat, and it was a winnable seat.
Is there an email for that?
Which one's that?
The fact that she said don't run in my seat.
No, that was a telephone call from her to my Queensland State Coordinator, and she was quite, again, to use a nice word, nonplussed by the tone and message within that phone call, and she rang us up, and we continued this polite exchange trying to speak to that candidate to let her know that no minor party is going to win 50% plus one vote against the majors. And so what I tried to explain was the minor parties need to put the majors last. That's just a very simple, well-known strategy. All the minors preference each other, and then whoever gets up, congratulations. In fact, I think I said at one point, it doesn't matter which of the minors gets up as long as the majors don't. So if IMOP had got up, I'd been happy with that, simply because you can't do it. And so you need as many minor parties as possible to feed each other preference. That's what Labor does with vacancies.
Just so it's very clear, in the video he said no such conversation took place. Michael, please note that a conversation did take place.
So somebody's lying.
Exactly.
But it's not me.
I don't want to say what the conversation basically was, but I made that point too. Someone's lying, and I want to know, because if Riccardo's lying to my face,
look, I'm done with this.
The show's off.
After this, I'm not...
No, we're not talking about this after this, because as I said, care. This is Gossip Girl. I don't like it.
Now,
but as I said, someone's lying, and we want to work it out, and we're in it together, guys.
And what Michael didn't mention in his very measured reply, it had more holes in it than Swiss cheese. He didn't mention the fact that, and I didn't raise it, but what's the definition of an ambush? It's a surprise attack by a force lying in wait on a temporarily halted or moving enemy. And so, bang, bang, Michael. On the 14th of December, at one of the presentations, my presentation, one of your candidates, initials PG, was making claims that A1 is against gays and single mothers. Now, that's demonstrably false. And this is what I refer to in spitting in our hands. It's spitting at us, right? We offered the hand of friendship, and now it would appear your people are bad-mouthing us.
Yeah, and it's a candidate. It's not like a member.
And this is okay, because it's fine. I understand that parties do what parties do, but please, be honest about it. And I'm advised that there was a Michael O'Neill in attendance on the COVID sheet. Now, there might be another Michael O'Neill, but it might have been you. It would have been more open and transparent, Michael, if you'd actually mentioned that you were at that meeting. 10th of January, A1 supporter group scheduled a community meet and greet, to discuss health issues, just generally. All are welcome, as well as raising awareness of A1. So it wasn't compulsory. It certainly wasn't a formal A1 branch meeting as such, but it was talking about vaccinations, masks, lockdown, PCR tests, and all of that. 2.5 hours. Yeah. Well, 5 IMOP, well, let's put it this way, 5 people, members of, actually they were members because we identified them, 5 members of IMOP demanded that they complained because they believed that this meeting was to vote in a president, secretary and treasurer, and they turned up with the intention of voting in that meeting as IMOP members to create an A1 branch.
Are they members of A1?
No, of course not.
Can you be a member of another party?
No, you can't.
Did they go through the pedophilia check?
No, they didn't.
Are they members of other countries as well?
I have no idea. And so they decided...
Sorry, guys. I don't even get voting rights, okay? I'm not even a member of A1. Like, you can't just do that.
So they complained at this meeting that they wanted to vote and they were disappointed that it wasn't to set up an A1 branch. And then they made the brave statement that they would go to Yeppoon to set up their own A1 branch, which I thought was funny. Now, one last thing, Michael. Either you're running this goat rodeo or somebody else is and they're not telling you about it. In fact, one of these people actually said that she's going to take over IMOP because you are... Now, what was the word? I don't want to misquote her here. I can't remember the exact word, but basically she indicated that you were incompetent and she was going to take it over. So it seems that you have a fire in your own house. Oh boy. So before you come and tell me what to do, Michael, I sincerely suggest that you look carefully at your own organisation and find out what the hell they are up to. Because you know what? A1 doesn't sneak into Labor Party meetings or Liberal Party meetings and try to deceive people. We don't lie. We're going to win on our own merits. We don't have to compete against anybody. We just tell people who we are. If they like it, they support us. If they don't have to. We don't play silly games like that, Michael. Yeah. And so, as I said, this comes under the category of pole vaulting over mouse droppings, and I don't much care. This is not an insult to the people who support IMOP. I said that last time. The people who support IMOP are probably the same people that support A1. All they want is something good for the country, their family and their kids. Nothing wrong with that. But, Michael, be extremely careful, please, for your own well-being, not to make allegations that can be taken to court, like saying you are a liar, particularly when there are copies of emails, which you were told apparently didn't exist. Last point. One of your candidates who peeled off from the last election just before it kicked off came to us and offered her assistance, and she, let's say, badmouthed you vociferously, and there's a big word. I hope you have the V in the dictionary there, Michael. She badmouthed you and the organisation, and she wanted nothing to do with you. Now, and I spoke to her, and I didn't want anything to do with her either. I have no time for people that betray, who haven't got the wit to make an informed decision. And she's now online saying that we should get together. Well, don't bother, Michael. I have no desire to speak to you or your representatives. I strongly suggest you have a close look at your people and find out who's leading the coup d'etat, which is another interesting expression. That means change of a state. It's French, but maybe you don't know that. So, Michael, I don't care, mate. You're of no relevance to me. I've got the emails. I know what I said. I know what I didn't say. I know why I said it. If anybody's got a problem, it ain't A1 and it ain't me.
I was right to trust you on this, honestly. Because I take everything with a grain of salt.
As you should.
And I knew that, because when you say stuff, I know where I'm like, okay, like for example, the call. Did something happen where they reached out. Yes, something happened. Where's the grey zone? We can work that out. But what
I've got
what they
my
were
Queensland
saying,
State Coordinator. If you want to get her on the line, she'll give you a chapter and verse of exactly the nature of the conversation and what was said.
Yeah.
But there's no need for that.
Yeah.
We're fine.
I'm sorry, Michael, that maybe that's not the right thing. I'm sorry it's come to this. I really, I'm not one for division, but you need to sort this crap out, okay? I hope that you keep fighting the good fight in some avenue, but I hope that this has been enlightening for you. I don't I don't do this for... I would put this segment out just exclusively for IMOP members, just so you guys can see the truth. But
no, you've got to do it for everybody because
because you've called us
he
out.
He shoved a finger in A1's face and said we were liars.
Exactly, yeah.
As opposed to A1 stinks. Yeah. I would have gone, no problem. You can say A1 stinks.
Yeah.
But when he made that legally dangerous series of statements,
no,
that's why we've got to turn around.
And it's all there. I looked at the emails. I've seen Riccardo going through them. We're not going to show them to the camera because there's sensitive info on there. But as I said, guys, this podcast is built on transparency. And the moment I veer off from that, I know you can destroy me because you are also the funding source for the show. I don't get big funding. I don't have institutional funders or big party funders. Not even Riccardo has paid me a single dollar. So the moment Riccardo lies to me on a certain thing, which would be irredeemable in this case, he hasn't. That's why the show continues. But if he did, the show wouldn't continue. There'd be a problem. So this is, I hope you guys learn the lessons you need from this, and I mean this sincerely, because we're all Australians and we're all trying to move forward, and the last thing we need is to be dealing with this wasteful use of our time, okay? We need to move forward on things productively, and we need to stop wasting time on untruths. Okay? Let's move forward on this. That's the last we're talking about, IMOP. Okay? I don't want to talk about this gossip girl stuff. I hate party stuff, and this is why I'm not a member of any party. But let's move on. This week, I would call the Australian establishment have been going after Craig Kelly. There was a survey which said 3/4 of Australians, I don't know where they got the survey from, wanted Scott Morrison to get rid of Craig Kelly. Now, Craig Kelly's been going hard on promoting hydroxychloroquine and Invictamin to sort of suppress the coronavirus and deal with it. Well, this is a article that was put out from your best mate on Craig Kelly. It's called Craig Kelly Must Go, Search for the Modern Candidate for the Electorate of Hughes, from Peter Fitzsimons, Riccardo.
The bandana man.
The bandana man. Do you know
communist on the board of the Sydney University.
Do you know how many people have seen that segment of you talking about him? It is an old segment from like 2 months ago, but they love it. They love it. They love you comparing Professor Flint to this bandana man on the Constitution.
Oh, good.
but I don't like this, guys. I kind of like, Riccardo's obviously, you've heard him being critical of Craig in the past for a number of different reasons. In terms of the things that Riccardo and Craig agree on, though, policy-wise, there is an enormous amount of overlap. And when it comes to things like climate change and bringing a logical sort of discussion to it, that is something they'd agree on, for example. I don't like this. I don't like it when the establishment says to Hughes and they start up these new organizations targeting a particular person. Do you know why they're targeting him? Because he's got like the 32nd biggest political Facebook page. And he gets more traction than the Prime Minister himself.
As much as I have disagreements with Craig Kelly, I will break my back to make sure he retains the Liberal pre-selection in Hughes. Fitzsimons, my goodness me! Oh dear me, this is a problem. This is a problem. They are. If you want to know who runs the country, see who you can't criticise. And some people are just puppets on a string. Exactly.
And another one this week, and we've talked about Joel Fitzgibbons. Is it Joel Fitzgibbons?
That was a few weeks ago.
Fitzgibbons. He brought logic. Labor. He brought logic to the climate policy of Labor, and they threw him out. They are. I think they're really trying to not primary him. They're trying to get him out of his area right now. Similar case where we've got old Labor and we've got a Liberal senator here, MP rather, senator. This is disgusting. I don't like this. And as Riccardo said, this is someone I'd 100% fight for, because I like the policies we're fighting for. Now, the puritanical part of me says he doesn't go far enough, but that's because the other parties agree. I only agree with 20% of their policies, whereas with Craig, it's a lot higher. I wanted to get you worked in the Middle East, Riccardo, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, because you probably know a lot more about the politics over there than me. Because I look at politics around the world, a lot of it makes sense in the Anglosphere, but when I look at the Middle East, it is something else. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So a lot of people this week have been talking about Donald Trump's triumphs. And, you laugh at it because you know exactly what this is. This is a graph, as you can all see, of all the previous, for the 5 previous presidents before Donald Trump. And it basically looks at the foreign wars that they all got them involved in, the country of America. And then there's Donald Trump, and he got them involved in no new wars. Now, people were just asking, like, now they were making the statement, now you see why they hated him, the military-industrial complex. Now, I did a post on this, and I'm going to read it out, not because I like hearing my own words, because I want you to strike it down if it's completely wrong. So basically, I wrote this week, the only time I've seen the American media universally compliment Trump was when he did those airstrikes on Syria in his first 2 years of office. After that, I think he worked out the intelligence agencies were feeding him bunk info to get him into a war with Syria in order to destabilize the Assad government there and install the Qatar-Turkey Pipeline. There were no chemical attacks by the Assad government, and no investigation was conducted at the time. I thought the punishment was meant to follow after the crime was proved in a court of law and beyond a reasonable doubt. Why would we trust the info of the same intelligence agencies that provided bunk pretenses to enter the Iraq war following the 9/11 attacks? The fake pretenses being weapons of mass destruction, of course, that were never found. Jimmy Dore, a progressive we've shown in the show, he covered this very well before the airstrikes took place, but in a video in 2016, well before Trump took office, and I did a post on that. You guys can actually search that on my profile. And this is the Qatar-Turkey pipeline that I was talking about. So this whole conflict is a rival between sort of two rival pipelines, one starting from Iran, going through Syria, and the other one going through Qatar, going to Turkey. Am I wrong on this? Is there some truth to it? Where does the truth end?
Oh, there is some truth. There's a lot of truth to what you're saying. It never appears to be what it is shown to be. The truth is many layers down. And the reason most reasonable people don't dive down deep enough is they cannot conceive of the level of evil that is required to kill and maim tens of thousands of people to achieve a political objective. It never occurs to them. They tend to say there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. Because there's a number beyond which you cannot go. The human soul just doesn't accept it. Should we kill 1 to save 100? Well, that sort of makes sense. Should we kill 1 billion to save 2 billion? Oh, hang on a minute. We got to look some other options here, and they don't do it. It's about control. This is the pipeline. There's the Russia pipeline as well across the north. It is intentionally designed to constrain, to provide single points of failure to the people and hold them hostage, and that's why any reasonable analysis would find a number of solutions to this problem, but they don't need to, they don't want to. What they want to do is they want to keep control. All of this supply of oil, for example, is critical. If you control the supply of oil, you control the Western world, because we need oil to survive, whether you like it or not. No alternative is yet being found to supply what fossil fuels supply. None. Doesn't exist, won't happen. Not for a long time, unless we go to Tesla and free energy, and that's a separate issue entirely. But right now, it's necessary. Yeah. You look at the Straits of Hormuz between the UAE and Iran, 20% of the world's seaborne oil sails through there. Now, if you shut that, and Iran's regularly threatening to close it, and so they get concessions. You shut that, and then a lot of people are going to suffer. And if Australians think we're safe from that, no, because we are. Every time you fill your tank, odds are excellent that you are using Iranian oil, which shouldn't be there, because it's bought by the Chinese, it's processed in Singapore and sailed to Australia. Now, every Australian politician knows that, but they won't tell you.
Frustrating.
So you're actually funding terror in Iran, but they won't tell you. Okay, so back to this specific issue. It is all about control. There are solutions to the problem, and they would rather kill tens of thousands of Syrians rather than find another one, because there is a way around this. There is always another way around it, but they don't want to. Evidence, no problem. We were told two intractable problems which would never be solved was North Korea and peace in the Middle East. Well, guess what? Good old Don managed to get North Korea away from the lunatic agenda, because it was never North Korea, because, as I said, there's always there's a marionette factor here.
Yeah.
And he managed to get the UAE and Israel to sign a peace accord, an accord.
Yeah, to normalise
relations.
So you didn't have, you could travel there, you could
Absolutely.
trade there. It was awesome.
Because when I was in the Middle East, if I had an Israeli stamp in my passport, I couldn't get into most of the countries because they cut us out. And I understood that. But once again, the point I'm making here is very clear. It's evidence. Is there a way around these allegedly intractable problems? Of course there is. And we have two massive examples with North Korea and Israel, and it can be done if you're not working for the deep state, if you're not a criminal, and you're not part of the cabal,
The club.
the club. As
Get George Carlin.
if you haven't heard George Carlin videos, do yourself a massive favour. Just Google George Carlin.
My God.
Listen to any one of them.
Yeah.
If you don't like swear words, please don't do it.
Yeah.
All right. Don't let the kids listen to it. It's very offensive.
Yeah.
Oh, but the truth hurts.
Oh my gosh! You know,
It's a big club, and you're not in it.
You're not. Maybe we'll play some clips next week. A clip or two next week.
If you can get him without swearing.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, the point here is, yes, there are solutions to this, but these people are sociopaths. I know I keep banging on about it, but you've really got to understand you can't defeat an enemy until you understand the enemy. They are sociopaths. They are capable of doing things that we can't.
Yeah.
Normal people cannot. And there are countless examples in military history where a general has had to make a decision that led to the death of thousands of his own men. And there's one Australian general, and he's in tent weeping, just weeping, and then he gripped himself up and went back to work. There are others that feel no problems, no compunction. It's just, yeah, okay, 10,000 died, okay, no problem, moving right along.
Yeah.
They're sociopaths, and it's hard to discern between the two until you see the reaction.
Yeah. I bring this up because it's obviously a very difficult area to understand because of the language barrier, and the politics is just the culture. Each area has a culture, and there's so many different countries there. And then on top of that, there's another dimension of religion. I wanted to point this topic out because it turns out that it sounds like you somewhat agree with the progressives on this, the true progressives, not the Kamala Harris's.
In what way do I agree?
In what way? So
you're worrying me.
No. In terms of, so for example, a lot of people in the progressive side, they've been commending Trump's peace deals over there, the 4 peace deals that he's been doing to normalise. So that's a no-brainer.
Of course it is.
Whereas I think Biden's going to try and undo that, who's a part of the establishment. And on top of that, this isn't sort of helping this is helping the military-industrial complex, which is something Jimmy Dore taught, the phrase he taught me basically, which is just the military machine that makes money off more wars and killing the American
Every
kids.
time they fire a cruise missile, there's several millions and millions of dollars that has to be replaced. And when Obama launched, I think, the largest number of missiles, the defense manufacturers just rubbed their hands with glee.
Exactly.
And it's not like they just hoped they sent it.
No.
I'll bet my bottom dollar that Obama was told, do this.
Yep.
And he wasn't some innocent. Do this because these guys need to produce more bombs.
Yeah.
Bang. Let's go kill people.
It's very frustrating. And Jimmy Dore always says, Obama dropped, they used to call him Obama, like bomb. Like he dropped so many bombs on Syria, he ran out of bombs.
And that's because then they had to restock the inventory. Meanwhile, he's flying bombs over, but the American military, the aircraft, the tanks, the rest of it, they were cannibalizing aircraft to keep whatever aircraft they had in the air. They had aircraft that should have been, airframes that should have been retired years ago. And they were actually they were cannibalizing part of the squadron in order to keep a few planes up.
Yeah.
And so this military-industrial complex, it depends on who's got it. There are so many inputs to this, folks. If you try to do a stakeholder analysis of the inputs to the White House or any national leader, you couldn't do it. The picture becomes like a spider web, and you just can't follow the chain. It's just so difficult. What you've got to understand about the military-industrial complex is these are the people that fund the parties, that fund the politicians, and then they expect payback in the sense that their weapon systems will be used. There's a book written in 1935 by Major General Smedley Butler, and it's entitled War is a Racket. And even back then, he knew that the wars were being fought in order to expend munitions and weapon systems in order to keep the military-industrial complex going.
Yeah.
even President Eisenhower, former Commander-in-Chief of SHAEF, Supreme Headquarters of the Allied Expeditionary Force that invaded Europe, as he was leaving as president, he warned the American people of the power of the unelected, and in that he embraced the military-industrial complex. So it's very real. And it's interesting you said, I agree with the progressives. No, I just agree with what's right and wrong. As I keep saying, this is not about left and right.
No.
It's about right and wrong.
Yeah.
And it's funny when people accuse A1 of being a right-wing party. Please show me one right-wing policy.
It's an anti-establishment party.
That's
I
exactly
keep
what it
telling
is.
people it's not, and it ties in with right and wrong, because right now the establishment has mandated, it's saying that basically anti-establishment is wrong. The non-narrative is wrong. That's what they're saying. They want
And
you
they
all
will
to
shut
think
you
online.
down.
Yeah, big tech.
Big tech will shut you down,
Yeah, and
folks.
we'll come to that.
Anyway.
Next topic is actually, I just want to very briefly just mention this, FYI. In Germany, they've announced detainment camps for those who break quarantine. I mean, you can't make this crap up.
Where have I seen this before?
I don't know. I can't remember the name.
Auschwitz?
Maybe which country?
Belsenbergen?
Where was that at? I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's somewhere in Upper Kumbukta West.
Yeah, in Australia. Like, and also, and if you think, Joel, stop fear mongering, it's not going to come here. The Sydney Morning Herald, a couple of days later. Outrageous. Parents shocked over New South Wales' decision to hold kids alone in quarantine.
What did I tell you?
What happened to being outraged about separating kids from their parents at the southern border of Mexico? It all counts for nothing. And they've got a radical plan. This is from QT. A radical plan to punish COVID anti-vaxxers.
See, once again, people ring me up and they're either in tears or angry, but mostly sad and confused. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
Yeah.
And as I said, another bit you can add to this is New South Wales wants to make, I understand, the QR codes when you check into an establishment, a pub or a restaurant, or a shop, make that ongoing. It will stay forever. They want to track you. Ladies and gentlemen, please, you need to wake up. You need to wake up. They will come for your kids. If you don't get the vaccine's not mandatory, but no job, no transport, no dole,
No benefits, no flights.
No benefits, no flights. Unless you're a tennis player, then you can fly in.
Yeah.
So thousands of Australians can't fly in to be reunited with their family, but the Australian Open goes ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they have to quarantine, but...
So, excuse me, why is it, tennis players don't get COVID?
Yeah.
Can you understand how inconsistent it was? And I heard that they were going to ban fishing as well, but the fishing industry said, no, you'd better not do that. And they said, no, fishing's now okay. Yeah. Can you see there is no internal consistency? They are lying to you. And unless you push back, and just for those who weren't listening earlier, the first thing you can do to push back is stop wearing the mask. How do you do that legally? By saying that you have an exemption, a medical exemption, and that nobody, including the police, is allowed to ask what that exemption is. Now, if you feel bad about lying, then don't lie, because one of the medical exemptions is anxiety. What is the definition of anxiety? You are dealing with a problem over which you have no control. It causes anxiety, and if you feel you're in that situation, you legitimately have a medical exemption and nobody is allowed to ask you about it.
Exactly.
So please, you want a result? What do we do? And the number of calls, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I spend forever on the phone telling them what to do, and nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
Take action. Step up.
Yep.
Go to your local MP's office. Ask them. Show me evidence that is safe and effective. Give me the evidence. Show me the medical report that is safe and effective. You will terrify them. Squeeze them till their eyes pop. Stop wearing the mask. The moment the masks start coming off, massive victory. If you think that's a small thing, but guess what? You have to do it. You have to face the fire now.
Right.
And people are afraid. And I get it. I really get it. You just don't want the fight. You just want, please leave me alone. Well, everyone's heard the story of the 6 million Jews in the gas chambers that were rounded up and killed. That's not even a third of it, 20 million. But it wasn't just the Jews, it was the gypsies, it was the homosexuals, it was the political dissidents, it was the poets, it was somebody whose eyebrow was too thick, whatever.
It was a disabled.
20 million were gassed and exterminated. And it was everybody. They are doing the same to you. They're going to do it with the vaccine. There have been deaths, there have been injuries as a result of the vaccines that they are handing out. And I was told that rural Australia is getting one of the vaccines that only scored 3 out of 7 peer review, as opposed to the city are getting the 4 out of 7. Now, it's almost like they want to strip the rural areas of the population. Now, who said that? Oh, it was me. That's why they're stripping the country so they can be handed over to communist China, and the big corporate farms come in and they run it. I knew this was happening about 7-8 years ago because I was watching the news headlines, and in the Middle East, it wasn't here, I was in the Middle East at the time, food security, new big issue. And I thought, oh, here we go. Here we go. Food security. What food security? Of course we've got food security. We've got more farms than we... Oh, no, we don't. They've all been closed down.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're going to starve you. They're going to strip the countryside of people via the vaccine, force everybody into the city, and away we go. Folks, I don't know how many times we can say it.
Let's see.
I suspect that tens of thousands of Australians will die as a result of the vaccine before somebody does something about it, before the people stand up. Tens of thousands will die here, hundreds of thousands will die overseas, and eventually people will push. And you know why they're pushing it here? Because we are more compliant. The Europeans are fighting back. The South Americans are fighting back. The Americans are fighting back. And Australia, the brave souls of Australia, just want to be left alone.
Interesting. Over what time period do you reckon tens of thousands in Australia?
Oh, give it
The course of the
couple of years.
Couple of years, okay.
Couple of years.
We'll revisit that prediction in 2 years. Hopefully he's wrong.
Well, I'm hoping we'll be in power before 2 years is up.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, guys. I'm calling you out, Big Tech. I'm calling you out. Why? Because the Australian Associated Press has been specifically targeting the 29th biggest political Facebook page. Now, which Facebook page is that? Well, it's Riccardo's. A lot of you don't know this because I don't tell you. I haven't told you on purpose because of this stuff.
Excellent control there, Joel.
Thank you, Riccardo. I'm trying to keep it child friendly as much as possible. The Australian Associated Press are certified to conduct fact checks on what's going on in Australia, basically. Now, these fact checks are being used by Facebook to censor your page, basically, whether that be bringing down the traction that your posts get, or whether that be the completely banning your posts outright and banning your page that you've put a lot of effort into. Now, guys, Riccardo's Facebook page, as I said, it is the 29th biggest in Australia. It's almost as big as Gladys's in New South Wales, which is very big. He's nearing 100,000 followers. Now, you can't tell that because the likes are significantly lower. They're at 27,000, which is a big difference. But there's no difference between a like and a follow because you can still see the content when it's a follow. So the reach that Riccardo has is almost as big as Gladys's.
It's almost like people don't like babies being killed. Let's see if more Australians are against killing babies.
Exactly. So on my left here, I've got a leader of a political party. I've got someone who has run in many elections and will continue to run most likely in future elections. Yet he's been, I'm calling this honestly targeted. And I'm going to quickly touch on some of these fact checks. It's not that I hate fact checks. They can actually be quite useful. And I learn a lot from them. It's the next step. It's when the AAP starts specifically targeting our videos and then Facebook picks it up. That's the problem. Facebook picks it up and says, on these grounds, you have violated our terms and conditions multiple times. Your page is gone. Hundreds of thousands of followers, your page is gone. You're a rival political party? Nah, no more. You cannot reach millions of people on this platform. We've reached 6.5 million people in the last 3 weeks just on that platform. You can no longer reach this many people with your videos and your very radical views. Now, this is the fact checks we're talking about here, okay? Now, there's some good points raised in this. And you know me, I'm an honest guy. I'll tell you where I was wrong, and I was wrong in this first one. The segment, and you can still find this, it's not banned. The segment is called, Did Scott Morrison Help Joe Biden Violate the Logan Act? And this is obviously the call where Joe Biden called a number of foreign leaders, including Boris Johnson and Scott Morrison. And we made fun of Scott Morrison, and so did Romeo Georges make fun of Scott Morrison. So it was an open-ended question when we were going to investigate that. Now, long story short, this was a very tongue-in-cheek segment. The reason why I said, what's the Logan Act? I'm sorry, guys. I explained it in the segment. The Logan Act is basically, it's an and these are my words, it's an ancient, you know what's funny? They quoted me, so I don't even have to remember what I said. It's an ancient act that doesn't matter. It was, and they actually say this in the article, they prove that point. It was passed in Congress in 1798, and there have never been any convictions on it. And this is why it's useful that they do this. I'm like, thank you for doing this. You just proved my point. My point was, this basically, the point of the act means that you cannot talk with foreign leaders if you're not in power. You cannot represent the United States if you don't have the grounds to. Now, I said that it's funny that this should happen because General Michael Flynn, who was the incoming foreign
National Security
Advisor, he was coming in and he was obviously getting ready and preparing the transition process, and he started talking to people on the National Security Council around the world, and he was talking about votes and foreign policy and this and that. And basically he was talking about the transition process. Now, during this time, when Trump had won the election, there were talks held in the White House that there are notes of and photos of, where basically Joe Biden says, can't we just use the Logan Act on this guy? And all I said in the episode was, look, Joe Biden, I think this is an ancient act and it shouldn't mean anything. But by your own standard, you should be convicted by this, basically. But I don't think either of you should be convicted. It was very tongue-in-cheek. I was very joking about it, if you didn't notice from the first 15 seconds, because I had Romeo do a very funny impression of ScoMo. Now, despite that, they thought that this fact check, that this post has no basis in fact. That's what you guys said. I wasn't saying that Joe Biden violated the Logan Act. I wasn't saying that. It was a very tongue-in-cheek thing. Now, is it right to compare Joe Biden and Michael Flynn and their cases? Probably not. And that's where I admit I'm wrong. But this is my problem, guys. Why can't I make a correction like I just did? Why is it that you have to be an official fact check, never contact me? I don't care what you said. You never contacted me, and I am contactable. There's no name on this article. It's just by AAP fact check. At least put your name and email so I can email you. I can't even contact you like that. I've got to call you generically. Why is it that you get to put this, I call it a hit piece in a way. It's a good fact check. It's good writing. You can put this out. I can't make the correction. Facebook sees it. I don't see this article from November. This is from November. I don't see it till last week. And because Facebook brings it to my attention. Like, why doesn't Facebook go after these articles? This is an article from The Guardian. It's on Monica Smith, my good friend Monica. Now, I'm not simping out here. This article has a correction made in it. Why is it they can make corrections because they've misreported on her, but I can't? Why doesn't Facebook ban The Guardian? Just read the first line. Here's the first line. How an anti-mask firebrand fans the right's flames against Dan Andrews online. This is the first sentence. After she failed to find fame as a Survivor contestant in 2017, Monica Smith has found another high-profile career as a firebrand of the anti-mask wearing movement. Why? Why are you doing this? Now, I get it. You want to stop the spread of misinformation. And here's another case of that. Just recently, 2 days ago, the University of Queensland COVID-19 vaccine claims fail truth test. This was a segment we did with Riccardo. Riccardo was talking about the vaccine that was done in Queensland. He got a couple of the numbers wrong, possibly. And also they challenged us on PCR tests, saying that they do actually work. I know. Have you read this?
No, I've not seen it.
It's a long piece.
Sorry.
And they said, the conclusion they came to was content that has no basis in fact. Again, if it's wrong, that's okay. We will make the correction. You did not contact me. You did not ask for a correction or a comment. You did not allow us to correct it. Instead, you're a fact checker for Facebook with no name on here, and you put this online in order to get us censored. Is that what you're doing? If not, please contact me. Again, I haven't heard from you yet. I'm hearing this from Facebook. contact me just so I can make a correction. I'm going to look through this properly because it's only from 2 days ago, and I'm going to make the corrections where needed if I'm wrong. But if I'm not, then this is entirely crap. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. I reckon there's some problems in here. If there's problems, allow us to fix it. Don't censor us. Why?
Isn't it funny how the mainstream narrative is error-free? There's never a fact check that came out and said, well, guess what? The inventor of the PCR test specifically stated that this shouldn't be used to do what you're doing with it.
Yeah. Fact check that.
Fact check that, folks. PCR test is, as described by the inventor, inappropriate to test for COVID.
And this is the thing. This is the thing, guys. No one is above criticism.
No, of course not.
We all should be criticized. That's how I became. I'm not pumping my own tires up here. That's how I became knowledgeable on politics. It was from listening to the left and the right, finding where the truth lies, and then relying on that as a rock. That's how I move forward. That's how I get things wrong. I don't want to be wrong a minute longer than I have to be. That's why I take your fact checks very seriously, and I wish you sent them to me or contacted me for a comment. So this is what happens with censorship. Because I'm calling you out here. I'm telling you, keep fact checking me. I love it. There was some very useful information here. But I'm calling you out. Why? I don't want you to censor the page. If you censor the page and get it banned, do you know what's going to happen? We're not going anywhere. We're not giving up. We've demonstrated our commitment to the country and pursuing truth. Excuse me. In this case, we have a situation where you are trying to ban a podcast that is helping de-radicalize people. How many platforms and shows actually de-radicalize people? That is a question you need to ask yourself. Because I've got proof from the left and the right, testimonies that long, 2 pages each, basically detailing what we're doing. Because what happens is when you censor us, we're not going anywhere. We're just going to go to BitChute. We're going to go to Parler. We're going to go to all these platforms out of your reach. Then you have no ability to fact check, and we're gone. And then what happens, just like with prison, is those same people become even more radicalized. Like in prison, the chances of them reoffending is even higher because what happens, it's not rocket science, a teacher will tell you this. If you put a bunch of naughty kids, like 5 naughty kids together, they'll make each other worse. If you put a good kid who perhaps did nothing wrong and you put him amongst, the average of his 5 friends, it's like that saying he will become like the naughty kids. That's just how it works, unless he's of very high moral character, which is very rare to come by. Now, if you do this, and I'm warning you, and I'm not trying to give you any pleasure out of this, if you do this, the people will get worse from this because you are empowering the radicals. We are de-radicalizing people. Censorship stops moderation. I can't bring people down to earth on things like the Q stuff because as we acknowledge this episode, there's a lot of Q people that go crazy. There's some truth, but a lot of them are crazy. And I help to de-radicalize them as I've got testimonies. There's truth to it. Let me just read you some of the comments. This is from, I'm calling him Billy. I've got his real name here. Both your commentary and both your commentary confirm that this radicalization was nothing more than a tactic to create division as well as divide the country. Having been able to listen to really effective arguments, I think I'm finally rid of a lot of dangerous and poisonous ideologies. I've got so many more like this. So many more, but I won't bore the viewers. I'm happy to share you with these in a redacted version. But this is the problem. If you censor us, we can't continue that work. I don't get radicals because that was a lefty that I de-radicalized. There's also white nationalists we've de-radicalized. So stop censoring us.
It's almost like they want to keep dividing us.
They
don't want real de-radicalization. They want to cause a fight. Man versus woman, black versus white, rich versus poor. They want to divide and conquer. That's their entire modus operandi. There's no artifice. There's no difficulty in seeing what they're doing. They are dividing us at every possible level, child from parent, Jew versus Christian. It's the same thing over and over and over again.
It's very frustrating because I know where this is going. You're going to end up, because what happens is what you did was you censored the Q people. They all went into an echo chamber. They weren't challenged by moderates like me. And then, because I've got to moderate my own side, just like the progressives have to moderate the loonies on their side that say there's 12 years left for the earth before it blows up. But they don't moderate their side. At least I do my job and moderate. What are you doing? This is not healthy. I'm not going off against the AAP. You guys do it. You've done a good job. I'm going off at you because you're working with Facebook to censor people so that they lose their accounts. We're not going anywhere. They tried this with Alex Jones in 2018. They got rid of him from everything, and they did it all at the same time. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all within a 24-hour period. And once they did that, he ended up creating an app which became more popular than the CNN app. It had like 6 million downloads. You didn't censor him. It didn't work. In fact, he ended up being at the inauguration at the Capitol on the 6th of January. It never happened. You never censored him. Similarly, you're not going to censor us. We're not stopping. I told you a long time ago, you got to cut my head off if I'm going to stop. With that in mind, I get it. You want to de-radicalize people and you want to help suppress misinformation. I'm trying to tell you, we're actually already doing that. And I've got the numbers to show it. But let's not talk about this anymore. But it's very enraging.
Who controls AAP?
I don't know.
AAP is one of the single sources of data on the planet. I won't call it news because it's not.
Yeah.
But AAP is one massive false flag operation. And as we've said before, all your news and entertainment is controlled by 6 entities globally.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of evidence, folks. Just look it up and check it up.
Yeah.
Word for word for word. Thousands of channels say exactly the same thing. We have videos, and they're online. This is just before the Iraq War, that the Canadian Prime Minister and the Australian Prime Minister, word for word, gave exactly the same speech to their respective parliaments. Word for word.
Wow.
And it's not because the points were similar, identical. Our politicians, our bureaucracies, our judiciary, our military, the constabulary, the universities, academia, you name it, all of it controlled.
Interesting. It's very frustrating about this, what we're up against, but yeah, this is where we are.
This is where we need to be. No, this is a good place.
No, it's a good place.
And this is really important.
And we do have a plan.
This is important because I want everybody, and just put in mind those people that are worrying about Trump and the fact that Trump isn't the president, and you're really worried and you're concerned, and I understand that, but you don't need to be. And I'm going to use Joel as an example. Where was Joel 4 years ago? Where was Joel 3, 2, 1? Where is Joel today? As a man and as a professional, as an intellect, he is so far ahead of where he was 4 years ago. And it wasn't because life was good, it was because life was hard. The body, the heart, the brain, the mind, and the spirit require effort for growth. You don't get big muscles by lying under the bench and not lifting the weight. Everything in life requires effort for growth. There is no stasis. You're either growing or you're rotting. Think of a tree, a fruit-bearing tree. You're either rotting or you're growing. There's no, I just wish it would stay. No, stop it. And now, and this is what we need to do. Trump's not there. Fantastic. All that's happened is someone just puts an extra 20 kgs on each side of the bar, and you're going, oh, that's a lot heavier than I'm used to. And you only lift it once. But then you go back and you lift it once. And then you'll go back and you lift it 1.5 times. And by the end of the year, you've got 100 kgs on there, and you're going, yep, no problem. This is exactly the opportunity we need as individuals and as people. This is perfect. It couldn't be more perfect. Yeah. We knew that we couldn't rely on anything in the US to save us. We had to save ourselves. Now, if Trump had won, I'll guarantee you a whole bunch of people go, oh, great, I don't do anything. Yeah. No, this is perfect for us because we need to save ourselves one way or the other.
Yeah.
We need to save ourselves. Yeah. And this is exactly what we need. Now, whether we like it or not is not the point. Yeah. When somebody throws an extra couple of kgs on each side of the bar, it hurts. I get it. But that's where the growth comes, because in 12 months' time, not even 12 months, forget it. In 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months from now, every one of us has the choice. We'll either be stronger or weaker. And it's entirely up to us. It is entirely up to us. But look at Joel. The way that Joel has just grown, and he's far more powerful now and influential. Why? Because he didn't choose the easy route. He worked against everything that he believed in. He learnt and grew. And I'm not saying we agree on everything because we don't. That's not the point. But what a man to come from where he was to where he is now. And every one of us has the same opportunity, but you've got to step up. He took the risk. He got onto the field and picked up the ball and was running one way. And then he realised, I better start running the other way because that doesn't look very smart. That's a big step to take. But every one of us needs to do this, folks. We are exactly where we need to be as a nation. We got the shock we needed as individuals and a people because we need to decide for ourselves today, right here, right now. What are we going to do about it? And you're going to have two choices. You do something, you do nothing. And as long as you do something, that's okay. In a year, 2 years, 3 years, you'll be a better man, a better woman, and we'll be a better country. So this is perfect.
What a quote. The greatest thing to come out of Donald Trump's loss is that more people pick up the ball rather than one.
They have to.
It's almost like the death of Leonidas in a way, but not a death, if that makes sense. The death of Leonidas ended up...
That's a brilliant... No, that is an excellent analogy. It really is. Yeah. It is really an analogy. Somebody's got to go first. And even if they die...
Yeah.
Guys, I can tell you there's worse things than death.
Oh, yeah.
There are much worse things than death. A physical death, I mean it. There really are much worse. And if you think about it, you'll know that to be fact. And you don't face death. You just face embarrassment. You might face a little fear. It's in your court. Join us on the field.
Let's do it.
We could use more players.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wanted to finish with this last bit of censorship. That was just Facebook.
Oh, okay.
YouTube, but I love the pep talk. With YouTube, I won't talk about a private conversation. YouTube have decided that a segment aired a week ago, from Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, on a real example of voter fraud. They ruled that this topic, you cannot talk about it after the 20th of January because Inauguration has happened. The problem with this, because they got rid of 5 of my videos, Riccardo. Yeah. I can't post for 2 weeks, guys. That might even mean no income for 2 weeks. So now you see what I'm up against. Well, in this case, because this has happened, if Project Veritas would have posted the same video, they'd be flagged. Now, this is a misfire. This is what I like. This is why I do these things for you, so you can explain. I can explain the different forms of censorship. Because, people on the right, and I'm not bagging you out, boomers, but a lot of boomers, they say, censorship this, censorship that, shadow ban this, shadow ban that. They use the word so flippantly. Let me be very specific. What the AAP is doing to our videos is targeted. I'm okay with it. I'm okay they're targeting because, it's an I'm not saying we're the elephant in the room, but we're obviously growing a lot of influence on Riccardo's page, 29th biggest political page in Australia. You should write about it. If it's garnering 6.5 million views in 3 weeks, I get it. The thing with what's happening there is I do call it targeted. Now, this is different, what's happening with YouTube. This is what I call a blanket ban, a blanket rule. The algorithms, having certain inputs put in that it ends up catching things that it doesn't understand. For example, sarcasm. Computers aren't that great at picking up on it. Well, in this case, James O'Keefe, we play a 5-minute video. It wasn't what we said, it was what he said. He basically started talking about voter fraud in the US election, and that triggered what they were talking about. But the thing is, the algorithm missed the fact that this is actually a legitimate case. Someone has been arrested and quite possibly charged in Texas. It's very specific. He never said that the US election was fraudulent because of, voter fraud. He didn't say that. This is a very specific case. This is what we're up against, and it's only going to get worse. I'm just happy that... See, I can work around this rule. I'm just happy I can get rid of this and appeal this, rightfully so, because there's articles written about this. Other algorithmic rules that are going to come into effect, like maybe with Q, they're going to be purged. I mean, we know they started on Facebook, the Stop the Steal purge of that hashtag. They don't let you do that. I don't put it in my videos anymore, so I can't. So we need to come up with solutions. In Poland, they have this example, which is brilliant, and it's not particularly new, but Poland are now going to fine big tech firms $2.2 million every time they unconstitutionally censor lawful speech online. We need a similar lawsuit in Australia. That's the truth of it. We need to be able to take these companies to court. We need to be able to get an injunction. I think that's what it's called, from a judge, so that we do get our accounts back, because this is not okay. And, you know, maybe there's been a lot of talk today, maybe Facebook and YouTube will leave. Maybe Google will leave and they won't allow Australian news sources through. We might be better off. I'm not even kidding. We might actually be better off if we don't have these social media things. What have we got from them? Better connectivity? Yeah, sure. They're not social anymore. It's all social justice. And in terms of what they actually do for us, our young Generation Z people, it's led to higher levels of anxiety, depression, and suicide rates. Do we really need them? Probably not. Maybe we need to rethink this whole thing. But to the creators out there, like myself, that are being censored, I watch all of it. It's become almost something you wear with pride, like a badge of honor. With censorship, I've talked to many people this week, and I've been very frustrated that they do not have contingency plans. I have contingency plans. For example, with YouTube, they gave me a second strike. I can't post for 2 weeks. That means no revenue. I already have a backup account ready to go that's already got ads running on it. So it's fine. This fight keeps going for me. But the point I want you to get from this, if you're failing to prepare, then you are preparing to fail and you will lose. It's the survival of the fittest. I said this before. And I think Riccardo's actually said it before. If you do not fight this, then we're going to end up in a situation where they will censor everything. And maybe we don't deserve to survive as a society in this case. Maybe we are not the fittest. So have a plan, have a contingency. Think about the different platforms you can go on. We're on Minds and Gab, and we're working on BitChute and Parler when it comes back up at the end of the month. But we've got to keep going with this. We are going to win this. You know that, right? But it doesn't mean that you do nothing. You've got to have these plans and keep fighting forward. That's the truth of it. As we said last week, I said, trust the plan. Screw the plan. Make your own plan. And Riccardo said, be the plan. And if you don't create your own plan, then you're going to end up in a situation like this, where China will continue to take advantage of Australia. That's not a leap. That's what we're seeing. I don't know how to end this smoothly.
Is this the last bit of the show?
Pretty much, yeah. What do you got to say?
No, we're good. Everyone should, seriously, we're in good shape. We're in good shape as a nation. We are still in a position where we can turn this around. But we have to, as we've said throughout the show, it's up to each individual to take action. Now you've got to get away from your keyboard and start physically turning up, just as a reminder. Turn up to your local state MP's office, your federal MP's office, knock on the door and say, I'd like to ask my federal MP for evidence that, and you'll have to do this at the front desk because they won't let you straight in, for evidence that the vaccine is both safe and effective. Can you please send me to the data? Now, you'll get immediate pushback, but just have your camera rolling, and they're going to, and the poor sod behind the counter, they're just doing their job. They'll give you some sort of pushback. I'm sorry, Mr. Kafups is not available or is busy or we have nothing for you, and just keep putting it online, keep posting it, keep challenging them. Turn up in groups, turn up daily, add 15 minutes to your morning routine. Whatever you need to do, get it up there. Next, so just start pushing back. Squeeze them till their eyes pop. Stop wearing the mask. Walk in proudly like I do without a mask, and maybe it's because I'm my size that I don't often get challenged, I don't know. Probably. But I've only been challenged once, and that was at the good people at Bunnings that accommodated my needs and gave me a little tag that said I'm exempt. The moment we start taking the masks off, this will be a tangible evidence, just as it is for them, how much compliance they have. It's tangible evidence for us that we are turning it around. And we need 1, 2, 3, 10, 50, 100, 100,000, 1 million people stop wearing their masks. This is a real victory, believe it or not, in the world of optics, how things are looking. We're in okay shape. As long as we keep moving forward, stop pole vaulting over mouse droppings, focus on the big game, focus on what's important. It's in your hands, folks. It really is. And look at your kids, and that's the motivation to keep you going. We're going to be fine, but we have to get more people on the field. As I said, if we have a protest and 1,000 turn up, we got a problem. 10,000 turn up, the cops have a problem. 100,000 turn up, the police got a problem. 1 million turn up, we win. And there's nothing they can do. Take your sovereignty for a spin. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Like Anthony when he went into Coles and he rang me up and said, mate, I did it. I said, did what? I didn't wear my mask. How'd it go? Outstanding.
That's awesome.
So just do it. And the first time you do it, and the first time's hard, I know, I get it. But after that, the confidence grows.
Yeah.
and get used to the dirty looks of people.
Oh, it's hilarious. Oh, I thought they were acknowledging how much I go to the gym, but it wasn't that at all.
No, they hate you. Oh, man, it's like, oh, my God, you're going to kill me. I said, well, if the mask works, why do we need social distancing? If social distancing works, why do we need the masks? If both work, why do we need both? There's no logic to it.
Why do we need the vaccine?
And we don't need the vaccine.
Yeah.
We don't need the vaccine. For the sake of you and your kids' health, I mean this, please start pushing back. Do it gently. Challenge your MPs and stop wearing the mask. We'll be fine.
Yeah, the harvest is plentiful, the workers are few.
It's exactly the line I used today.
Oh,
when
really?
somebody rang me up
and
she said, how's it going? And I said, I have a vineyard that is heavy with grapes, right? And there's a few of us in there collecting as many as possible. And there are hundreds of thousands over the other side of the 3-strand barbed wire fence yelling out advice. There's a bunch over there. Go get that. No, get that bunch. And I say, folks, jump the fence and join me. Oh, no. We're good here, thanks.
Also, when you do it, don't be so violent when picking the grapes. You're hurting the grapes' feelings.
Please jump the fence, come into the vineyard, help us collect the grapes. Because I'm telling you, the vines are heavy. The spectators are many. We just need a few more people to get in there, sign up, get your Working with Children's check, and start recruiting more people to A1. Because once again, the reason for this is very simple. We've got to build this ARC, not ARC arc, but this ARK arc. Because when the SS, Liberal, Labor, Nationals and Greens sinks and they hit the the iceberg of truth, I don't care about the crews of those particular vessels, but the good people who support them are going to be swimming in the water, and we need to scoop them up and bring them into our little boat, and the boat's got to be ready to go. That's why we're focusing on growing the party. It's critical. So someone from the electorate of Upper Kumbukta West discovers us, and there's a functioning supporter group or branch ready to go and say, come on in, what are you good at? Well, I like social media. Great, well, you can be our social media manager. Let's get to work. But we've got to build the party, and we win.
Awesome. Legendary. Yeah, guys, that's the moral of the story. There's a lot of work to do. In terms of what last week, thank you everyone for the support. One of the cameras did cut out. I hope none of these cut out this week. But you guys are awesome. We've raised enough for 3 cameras, which is awesome. For a real budget sort of do what we need to do cameras, which is really good. They should be reliable. I'm working on getting a program that will help manage that, and also someone to manage it as well. I'm considering getting a 4th camera. Why? It could be worth the wait. It's because when we have 3 guests, and we might have a very special one in the coming weeks, I'm not saying anything, you're going to want the 4th camera. Otherwise, it's just going to be a close-up on me, close-up on Riccardo, close-up on them. You're not going to have the overall. And obviously, I want to try and make that live if it were to happen. But I'm trying to get this done within this month. If I can do it, then I'll be very happy. But this is all about quality, and I want to make sure that the quality isn't diminished. But thank you for the support. Thank you for everyone that's been sending donations. I will send you all unique emails and messages thanking you and personally, but some of you...
You know my pain.
Exactly.
I'm really sorry. We're not rude.
I know, we're
really
not trying to be
busy.
rude. I'm not like taking the money and be like, oh yeah, thanks, keep going. No, I genuinely, I want to give you, a lot of you, I've been trying to get a hold of you to give you a call, but with some of you, you do your donations through a business, and it's like, there's no name here. At least with some people, you provide a name and I can find you on Facebook, and then I actually pass my number to you so I can give you a call and thank you. But no, for those of you that I didn't get a hold of yet, thank you so much. It means a lot. It allows for the show to continue and allows me to work. It actually reduces my workload by getting filmed cameras in, because it does the editing for you rather than me doing it manually through a program and then exporting. It's going to save me a lot of time. For every 1 hour of footage I get, it takes me 4 hours just to edit it. So, and that's pretty quick. That's a quick turnaround, FYI. But thank you very much. Thank you, Riccardo, for another week. I think this is going to be like over 2.5 hour episode, but the things we do for you guys is just too much news.
Oh, well, look, do it for beer and cigarette money, and I don't smoke anymore, so just send a slab of beer and we're good.
That's it. That's it. All right, well, Rick, we'll see you next week, and we'll see what happens.
Thanks, mate.
Hi, Joe! Congratulations, Joe!